There we go. And the stream is live. Oh, it better be. Really suck if I'm just here talking to myself. There we go. What's up, Mohammed? What's up, Brayosaur? What's up, Beninja? What's up, Prism Brad Reviews channel? Fandom Tarek, Jason McGard. Y'all are popping out of the woodwork. No music today on the stream because Dolly's been busy with work. And so I didn't look into how to separate Discord and desktop audio. So we're just going to go, you know, thing. What's up, Mr. Cat? Hold on, I'm tweeting. King Henry III, Dragon Ash. What's up, y'all? That's down. Samurai will be here in a second. He's taking care of something. See, Jason, I know that's not true because the voices only get loud when I stop drinking Celsius. I already said hello to you, King Henry III. And you know what? I'm going to retract that. No hello for you. What's up, Axolotl guy? Yeah, well, Samurai's favorite Pokemon is Samurott, and I got a Feraligatr on my banner, so I was just like, well, he came up with, like, what if we just had to do those? And I was just like, hell yeah. So I just drew these guys in. They're based on screenshots from the anime, which is why they look very similar to the anime. I'm out of Celsius. Nah, but how are y'all doing today? You guys excited to get into the wonderful world of by the way, King Henry, if you're new, I'm just a regular dickhead, so never worry about anything. Mr. Cat, you're not the boss, me. Super Disperve, what's up, Super? What's up, Splatterspark? Don't do nicotine, kids. Yeah, I don't know why I drew them angry, or I found two angry references, because me and Samurai aren't beefing on here, where it's a very collaborative talk. This is just what we do in our free time.
Yeah. Also, I'm back.
Welcome.
My mouse was where I left it. I thought I left it somewhere else.
Yes. Well, welcome. Samurai, you want to introduce yourself to the people? We got 18 people watching.
All right, so hey guys, Samurai here. I did my YouTube intro because I don't know what to say because I don't stream too often. But hey guys, Samurai here. I'm friend of Doliwhop.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is the guy who helps ghostwrite my series.
I was the reason why he colored Ash's hands black.
Yes, exactly. It was all him. Blame him.
It was him. He was like, I'm thinking of making Ash's hands like skin color. And I was like, no.
Armament hockey.
I was just like, no. Let me pull up the stream chat on my end so you're not just reading it to me.
Yeah, exactly. I can also share my screen to you in Discord if that helps.
No, sure. This is why I bought the laptop so I could read that.
Hell yeah. You'll get a little, by the way, so tell me, by the way, how Samurai's audio levels are. And just in case, because this is my first time having someone else on the stream, so I'm roughly balancing them against myself. But no, yeah, no. Yeah, by the way, the reason our stream layout is like our usual stream layout is because, one, me and Samurai have vastly distinct voices, so you shouldn't be confused by who's talking. Second off, I didn't make a layout for that. Third off, I usually face cam. Samurai doesn't face cam, so you know it would if I pulled up like the Discord screen, it would just be his icon and my face anyways. So might as well just throw up the art. But yeah, me and Abdul here, we regularly in our own private Discord with our friends just talk about writing. You know, writing his series, writing my series, and this is something that was like loosely thrown up the air of doing a writing thing, and we finally pulled the trigger on it. It's what, Samurai's usually working Saturdays, which is why we're not doing this for a Saturday stream and we're doing like a late day Friday stream. But all the same, this video will be up afterwards. So, Zach, if you want to hop in this call, we'll pull you into this call. We'll get the trio. We'll get 3 people going on here.
Wait, Zach is in the chat?
Yeah, Zach, hero. Without me?
I don't know why my computer's not displaying the stream chat for some reason.
Yeah. Expect random little kid attacks in the background, by the way, guys. Nah. Zach, we got so much we could talk about writing that one stream cannot encompass it. We will get in a call with you at some point and have to do a writing stream because I need to pick your brain about your series at some point. Oh my god. But welcome to the stream, guys. Ion's here to make fun of Abdul. But okay, so what are we going to go over today? Because writing's pretty broad. So we're going to touch on our own series, of course, because that's what we relate to when it comes down to this stuff. But as well as that, we are going to be going over... yeah, you got it, Zach. But we are going to basically, for all you people out there who want to make a Pokemon series, we're gonna kind of be going over both our creation processes for that. Like, because if you've never watched Samurai's videos, he's done what a lot of people done. Zach, for example, Xanolith, where you start with a pre-existing Ash. You got a bunch of regions behind you, and you start in a new region. I, on the other hand, started with a fresh Ash, where I started in Kanto, and I got to do whatever I want. We'll be talking about sort of the strengths and weaknesses of that, going into character creation, because I've written my stuff. Abdul's written his own characters. Because we've both taken characters existing in Pokemon and changed them. But I guess we just started off. This is so weird talking about this in a formal setting because usually we're just bullshitting back and forth.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like almost here, like, okay, guys, so for the first topic, we're going to be talking about this.
It feels like it feels like when you have to, like, when you're in a professional like work setting and you have to use like different language. So I can't be like, yeah, so we want to do this. I have to be like, so our main quarterly projections are this.
Yeah, no.
Our main projections.
You're good, because I regularly verbally abuse these people in chat, so you could say whatever the fuck you want. There's no limits. But yeah, let's. I guess we'll start into the so Samurai, how do you start your series? Like, where did you how do you? Because you started in Galar, you started Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you kind of go over the thought process of like why you start in Galar versus, is there like another region you wanted to start in? We'll kind of start with some basics and then we'll get into our the more complicated stuff.
Yeah. If I had it my way, and that sounds crazy to say, like Abdul, of course you had it your way. You could have started wherever, but like, you get what I mean. If I had it my way, I probably would have started with Unova, like most people try to do. I probably would have started with Unova. However, what the video idea was is, hey, what if there was just, because I made What Is at the time, so it's like, what if there was just like a Pokemon Sword and Shield series where Pokemon Journeys just takes place in Galar? And I was like, okay, but we can develop this more, and that's how Sword and Shield came about. But to answer the question, why I think it's cool to start in Galar, Galar is a lot like Unova in the way that you can make it very self-contained, and you can make it very much like you don't have to rely on continuity, because Galar is like one of those, like, I don't know how to explain it, where it's like, it's kind of like XY and BW, where it's like, it's very beginner friendly. You're not really, it's not a lot. There's not a lot of plot, so there's not a lot of things you have to adapt. There's a lot of things that you can like re-implement. Like, you can actually make the plot deeper. You can actually go and like, there's a word for it. There's a specific word I'm looking for. It's like when you go in something more in depth, but it's like a specific word. But you get what I mean? Where it's like Galar is just very simple. It's like Kanto, it's like BW, where it's like you can very easily adapt the story without doing a lot of work. And it's just the Pokemon pool is great for like three characters. The gym system is like the best it's ever been. So like it's a new, fresh take. The games are very point A to point B, so there's plenty of stuff that you can improvise if you just want to do stuff. Gen 8 overall, very easy series to write, so I think it's a really good jumping off point as opposed to something like the previous gen, because I think Gen 7 is a really hard generation to write if you
Yeah.
don't have like anything to build off it. Because what a lot of people do when they try to like tackle Gen 7 is they want to have Ash win. The problem is if that's the first season you're ever gonna tackle, it's like it's like that's gonna be hard because you don't really know if this like unless you're writing just canon Ash. But like the more you write a version of Ash, he'll just kind of become his own thing.
Hmm.
Go sit down. Go sit down. Go sit down. Go sit down. No. But yeah, that's why I started with Gallon.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where like a lot of people, I think for a lot of you out there, your first instinct is if you're going to start a series, you want to start probably at a certain point in the anime that made you go, I'm not like for like it varies by age and generation by generation, but like, and I mean like age generation, not even Pokemon generation, but like whatever series where you felt like there was a fall off. A lot of people felt there was a fall off in the anime in Unova, so a lot of people want to start from Unova. A lot of people are kind of fine with Unova. They love XY, they love Alola, and Galar's obviously like they want to continue into just where could Ash go in the next region? Just continue the series instead of like doing a journeys like Galar.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, and
Sure.
one thing I've noticed with a lot of people, and like one of the biggest strengths of that, I think you have if you are going to start with a pre-existing region, you got a pre-built Ash. You have usually
Yes.
7 or 4 wherever you start, like regions of experience of Pokemon.
Mhm.
And the best part about that is you can make Ash competent. You know,
Yes.
like as someone who started in Kanto, because obviously, another way, like, I mean, obviously, when it comes to starting your series, you need an idea.
Mhm.
Sometimes it could just be you want Ash to travel in the new region he's never traveled before, like Galar.
Yeah.
In in
Mhm.
in my case, as you guys know, I started with Ash. I'm gonna redo Ash's adventure, but he's not. He can't catch anything he's ever caught before, and that's
Yes.
my and that's kind of an interesting factor because one thing the market is very saturated in is Pokemon rewrites. It doesn't feel like
Yes.
it, but there are a lot of Pokemon rewrites out there with varying levels of success or not. And so one
Yes.
thing you kind of want to do is you got to kind of establish your own niche, whether it be stylistic wise, writing wise, or even just team wise. That kind of gets you in thing. It's
Dolly, before you
yeah, go
before you
for
get
it.
into that, I wanted to read something from the chat
Yeah.
where it's like, because I didn't know when to naturally insert this because I feel like we're going to jump to another topic very soon, but I didn't
Mhm.
know when to naturally insert this.
No, go for it. We're
But
gonna be
in the
all over
chat,
the place.
yeah, no, sorry. In the chat, Electro Pikachu said, also, hi, Electro Pikachu. He said, honestly, a lot of people feel like trying to fix Unova, and I don't understand it. The main reason why people want to fix Unova is more or less because people were just unsatisfied from it,
Hmm.
where it was just like when Unova came out, because Unova was my first series, if you guys don't know. Unova was my first series. So it's like, hold on, hold on, hold
I'll continue where he left off and he can reiterate. But we'll have frequented this, by the way. This is most of my calls with Samurai. But when it comes to Unova, I mean, it's the series where everyone goes, Pokemon went to shit. Things are wrong. Iris is annoying. Ash is stupid. Like, there's a lot of stuff in it. No, you got it, Electro Pikachu. Don't worry. We're just using you as a jumping off point.
Yeah, you're not at fault.
Yeah. Okay, welcome back. Continue your point.
Yeah. So either way, like people just kind of want to fix series that they haven't. And I think here's the thing. Here's another thing. I think when people like, I think if you write a rewrite based on the like wanting of like, I think there's two ways to write it because there's something I'm very specifically trying to say. Do not try to write a rewrite in terms of like, oh, I'm gonna make something better than the original. Write it out of wanting to like make the original better, but also write it as like write it because you want to write it, not because you feel like you need to fix it. Because that's gonna make writing feel like a chore, and then you're not gonna like it. Because
Hmm.
the sad thing, like the sad thing is, if you don't like writing a specific region or like a specific arc in like Pokemon in general, like, and if you treat it like a chore, you're not gonna like, because you have to find something you like about at least every generation if you plan to write like each generation. Like, I'm not too fond of Gen 2. So like if I ever wrote a Johto series, it would be the most one and done
Yep.
thing ever. Like, they're at this city, then they're at this city, then they're at this city. You want to explore the Johto landscape? Hell no, we're going to the next city. We ain't explored nothing. We're
Ex-
getting to the gym and we're leaving. We
exactly.
ain't explored nothing.
Like
So it's
you.
like,
No, continue.
no, all I was gonna say is I was gonna end my point by saying like, so the reason why people write rewrites in terms of like trying to fix it is more or less because a lot of people care for Ash or care for the characters that are in the series and want to see them being them done, having them be. I can't formulate sense. Like,
Having
I
them
can't
done
formulate
justice.
senses.
Do justice them.
Having their justice being done. Yeah. So it's like that's the main reason why people write Unova, because the beginning of Unova was egregious. Even though I think Unova's a little overhated in my humble opinion. That's
There,
just my take.
there's some flaws with Unova that people point out that can be attributed a lot to the other regions, for one, but we won't. This isn't a discussing Unova thing. So yeah, so an important thing, if you're gonna start your series, figure out the region you're starting in and kind of figure out the reason why you're writing this, other than just doing a rewrite. Are you doing something different with the teams? Are you doing something with the plot? Like, what are you going to do that makes you, like, because I get frequent comments about certain things that, like, oh, are you going to do this in Kanto? Are you going to do this in Kanto? And it's like, no. Why? Because if you want, like, it's like I changed up Ash's companions. Giselle is traveling with Ash right now. And I got no pushback from that, funny enough. Like, you would think I got a lot of pushback. I got nothing, More people were curious than anything. I did it to change it up, to change the dynamic, because if you're just writing, like, say you're writing Kanto. If you're just writing Misty, Brock, and Ash traveling around and it's the same thing as the anime, what's the point of your series? The cool part about doing a rewrite is that, you haven't missed much, Granklecorn. The cool part about doing a rewrite is the world is your oyster. There are no rules. Like, you are the writer. You can do whatever you want. Now, whether your audience is going to be receptive or not, that's another case, because there is a factor when you're starting a rewrite of audience appeal. Like, I've taken a lot of risks with my series, but in fairness, I've also started with such a, whack concept that, like, you guys have been way more receptive of change than I've seen in a lot of people's communities.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, like, if you're like Abdul and you started in Galar where you don't have a basis, you can kind of do whatever you want. It's not like you're like, if you change Pokemon or you give Ash a new team, there's any previous Galar team to like compare and contrast against. I'm like, I don't think that was as good as Surfetch.
Well, in my, I had a special situation where if he's still in the chat, he knows exactly who I'm talking. If he's still in the chat, he knows exactly who I'm talking to. I got a lot of comments, and to be fair, I understand why I got the comments, because it was weird that because when I did Sword and Shield, I give Ash Score Bunny and Teleon, so a lot of people are like, okay, so when's like, is someone in the cast gonna catch a Grookey? Apologies for the background noise. Is someone in the cast going to catch a Grookey? And I just didn't answer the question until like a very specific episode. I think it was like episode 7, where I had there be a Grookey, and everyone's like, "Oh, is Ash going to catch this one?" And then I said, "It's Hobbs," which is like, this is like, again, apologies for the background noise. Go sit down. Go sit down. I don't know why they're jumping to that. No, sorry. What was this? With Grookey, it's basically a non-verbal way of me telling them, yeah, Ash is not going to catch a Grookey. But the reason why I got those comments is because a certain person, a certain individual gave Ash a Rillaboom, a Dreadnought, a Set of Scorch, and every single time, oh my comment section, there was one guy being like, when's Ash going to catch a Rillaboom? And we're in season 3, mind you. We're in season 3. They're like, where's Rillaboom at?
Yep. No. And that kind of goes into a big factor. You don't have to do this, but I definitely encourage you, if you're going to do a rewrite, watch other people's rewrites. And it's one thing. So when I wrote my Teams video, my original one before the actual rewrite, like, the reason why I established the rule of I can't use anything Ash has caught before is literally because I wrote out an entire Kanto team, and I wrote out Zach Toshi's team and stuff. It was literally the team Zach gave Ash in his redoing all of Ash's teams. And I was like, well, what's the point of making this video if I'm just going to copy the same teams of everyone else? And that's why I made that rule. So when you're trying to do your own rewrite, obviously, I'm going to use Kanto because that's what I'm in. You can use the Kanto team. You could use all 3 starters. You can all do that. But again, sometimes just being different is interesting. It draws people in. When I put a Ash catches Golduck or Ash catches Jigglypuff on the screen, people are interested. When Ninetales is there, people are like, Ash caught a Ninetales? What's this deal? And there's no... It's one thing if you watch I always go back to the first rewrite because that's what I reference a lot. But my first team's video, where I had a lot of BS I said in there that I don't believe in now. One thing is, yeah. Samurai didn't like me at first because he was like, this guy's definitely going to be annoying.
No, it's because the genuine reason is because like one take that I hate, and we keep going on tangents, but one take that I hate is if Pokemon A evolves, it would lose its personality. That never made sense to me because that implies that every Pokemon of every species has a set personality, which doesn't make sense. Because the example I always use is if Ash's Squirtle evolved into a Blastoise, does that make it act like Gary's Blastoise? No, because they're individuals. They're not like, it's not like a hive mind species thing. Like, it'd be cool if there was a Pokemon like that. That'd be a cool thing, like a BM kind of type, BM type shit. But like, no, most Pokemon are not like that. We've seen this multiple times. So it was just really funny because Dolly was like, oh, if Ash's Oshawott evolved, it would lose, it couldn't keep its personality. And I was like, I'm not going to like this guy. I'm like, man.
Yeah, but like, so... Like, you think, like, one comment I get is Ash going to catch a flying type on his team? You know, because like what I'll say here, there are no rules. There is no such thing as an Ash Pokemon. If you went down Ash's list of Pokemon before you watched that generation and you told him, like, Ash is going to catch a Muck, a Gliscor, a Glalie, people would look at you like, that's like a rival Pokemon. Why would you ever give Ash that? If you look at XY on a base factor, you know nothing about XY. You don't know what team he's catching. And you said, Ash is going to catch the Assassin Ninja Greninja and not the Noble Paladin Chestnut. Like, that's actually insane. Like, Chestnut, Abdul turned me onto this, of, like, this truth of, like, Chestnut fits very well for Ash Ketchum the person, More so not instead of Greninja, but like it does fit well with like Ash in terms of his personality. But regardless, there's no rules. Like when people ask me like, Dolly, are you going to give Ash a flyer? Like he needs it for like scouting and Team Rocket Balloons. It's like, I'm just not going to write myself in those situations where that will happen. You have full control of the narrative. You can do whatever you want, like.
Minor thing. It is funny that you said that. I'm not going to Ash in a situation where he needs a flyer. I think it was episode 7 where you needed Beedrill to be flying.
Yeah.
Probably. I'm not going to write myself in those situations. Anyways, episode 7.
Ignore me. Yeah, so you can do it. You don't have to, when you're making these teams, you don't have to do any hard or fast rules. You don't have to be like, Ash has to get a starter, and he has to get the regional bird, and blah, 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 blah. You can give Ash whatever you want. If you like trainers having legendary, you can give Ash a fucking Heatran or an Articuno if you want. There's no limits to this. But, so, reiterating back to our main point, if you're starting a series, pick a region. Obviously, we're going to speak, by the way, on an Ash Ketchum basis. OC stories are a bit different in how you write them and how you approach them, but we're speaking from you're rewriting Ash Ketchum or you're writing him continuing on, The next factor I think we'll go into is the team, because we've been talking about it a lot. And here's my team philosophy here. And this is kind of specific to me because me and Samurai have different strengths in our writing. And that's actually kind of a factor of what you need to do is maybe it's kind of good to actually have someone watch your series and they can usually tell you, because you might not even realize it. But figure out what your strength is in writing the series, whether it is world building, story, character creation, animation, like whatever it is. Like, so when I've made these Ash teams, a big factor is I have to get you guys to like them. And that's because I have pre-existing teams that I'm replacing with completely new mons with unusual choices. So I need to make sure you guys enjoy these as characters. But that also, even if I didn't have to do that, part of my philosophy is every Pokemon you give, specifically Ash, because you could be a bit more nebulous with like companions, because it's not as important unless you're doing like a major storyline with like, say you're writing Scarlet and Violet and you have Liko and she's really important, stuff like that. But focusing on Ash, because I'm getting off on tangents. When you are writing Pokemon, they are characters. They are not tools. They are not Ash's just magic spells to throw in things. They're not even just a gimmick. They are characters. You have 6 characters, at least, depending on how many Pokemon you give Ash, that you have to care about and write for. Now, not every Pokemon you write has to have an Infernape or Greninja long arc. If you look at my own series, kind of the 2 Pokemon that have had main arcs, 2 or 3, but the main 2 on my mind are Golduck and Ninetales. Ninetales has an overall arc. Golduck started off, Psyduck being all weird and stuff, and then after Beedrill left, Beedrill had like a small arc in his debut episode, but then was pretty consistent throughout, Sure, he had his like big climactic Snorlax episode, but like, he didn't have like this overstretching arc. Beedrill's been pretty consistent all the way through. But like Golduck and Ninetales have their arcs. Golduck's arc kind of wrapped in the last episode, with his evolution. It doesn't mean a Pokemon no longer changes. It doesn't mean they no longer grow or experience conflict, but like it was just that small bit. Tangela and Cubone are pretty consistent characters. Doesn't mean they don't face adversity and challenge, but they're like kind of meant to be solid mons. So not everything is an overall arc, like Ninetales learning to get along with Ash and stuff, and Ash getting along with Ninetales, or Golduck learning to be kind of like the team leader in a way, and being able to stand up for everyone. Like, but you have to do something with them. They have to, and it, like when it comes down to it, you also got to figure out, because it's easy to be like, this is how Ash interacts with this Pokemon. But how do the Pokemon interact with each other? Because not only is it just like, oh, the relationship between Ash and his Pokemon, it is the Pokemon and Pokemon. It is, how does Tangela interact with Golduck? How does Tangela interact with Ninetales? How does Tangela interact with Beedrill versus Ninetales and Cubone, Ninetales and Golduck? Like, all that stuff,
Yeah, and if I can jump on that.
Yeah, go for it. I was about to give you a...
No, if I can jump on that point as well. Like, as much as people hate I don't know if anyone else hates these. Maybe I just hate them. As much as people hate the Pokemon got split up from the Pokemon got split up from their trainers episode. Like, I remember that one episode in XY with the Pangoro. Like, as much as people like hate those episodes or like those episodes do show you what the Pokemon interact with like each other. Even if the personalities are basic and we have to deal with Chespin in X and Y, who's tragically unfunny.
Yep.
But like random share at X and Y. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. We regularly hate XY on this channel.
But no, those episodes are necessary, and while you don't have to write them, it is a good writing exercise to figure out what are your Pokemon's like kind of like relationships with each other. Like, I can speak for myself. I know if we're gonna go with Sword and Shield, I know for a fact that like Corviknight and Cinderace have very petty rivalry. Like, they care for each other, but it's a very petty rivalry where, because Corviknight's like a very knightly, loyal Pokemon, finds it very corny, and that's where the petty rivalry stems from.
No, 100%. Like,
so that's an example where it's like, try like, but when you write out Ash's team like a doc or whatever, like try to figure out what are these Pokemon's personalities, and then how does every Pokemon feel about the other Pokemon? Like, how does, like, we're just gonna use a basic team here. How does, like, let's say we're using the Kanto team. How does Pidgeotto feel about Squirtle? How does Squirtle feel about Charizard? How does Charizard feel about Pikachu? How does Pikachu feel about Butterfree? Like, as an example.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're trying to figure out Pokemon personalities, it's not wrong to just use the species. Hawlucha is actually, I used to be a hater, but I give him his credit now. He's a solid mon on Ash team, but he's just kind of Hawlucha the species. If you gave Ash a Sobble, it being a Sobble, the crybaby Sobble, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Not every Pokemon has to be 100% this original, completely opposite. Like, me and Samurai have 2 very completely different methods when it comes to giving Pokemon Ash. I think the way, like, you mentioned it once, if like we were giving Ash Kanto Pokemon, that I would go for like a Slowbro with a Lisp, versus you who would go for like, you know, let me use Charizard for example. You know, like your own biases will very much play into what Pokemon you
Like
want to give Ash.
I can come with another example. Like Dolly's the type of person that if we were making Kanto teams for Ash, he'd give Ash a Dugong that has crippling anxiety.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, I would give Ash like a Rapidash that's based on Aaron Judge, the baseball player.
Yes, that's another thing. Actually, that I'm glad you mentioned Aaron Judge. Your inspirations for your series don't necessarily have to be Pokemon based. Like a lot of ways you can figure out the personality for a Pokemon, take it from an existing character. Be like, I think this character, I think Ash's Pikachu is really kind of like Luffy-like from One Piece, you know? Abdul's a guy who uses sports out the wazoo for his thing, relates his Pokemon to, you know, like basketball players underneath the sun. And it's a
Wait,
no, continue.
really unrelated because Zach posted too soon when I mentioned Aaron Judge. I have to say this. Zach is gonna understand why I say this. The Yankees lose. The Yankees lose. You have to understand. I need to bask in my victory. I need to bask in my victory for a minute. The Yankees lose. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's go. Sorry, dog. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just need that.
No, you're good, dude. That's what makes these streams fun. We can really just say and do whatever the fuck we want.
I had to get that out of my system.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, you know, when you're coming up with Pokemon for Ash, like the worst way you can do it is think about it. Like, not even, I don't want to say this is the worst way. You don't need to think about it statistically. Like, if you're doing an XY team or something, like, and you're trying to come up with Pokemon, something like, you know, I wonder if there's no like old Pokemon that me and you came up with for Ash that I think are like got axed out. Like I want to go over like the Unova team because we collaborated a lot on that, but like I can't spoil anything.
It didn't happen yet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So and even the ones I like collaborated with Rose on, I'm just like, crap, that's in the thing. So the where am I going with this? Okay, yeah. So statistically, like you're writing a series where you're not limited by the game. You're not even limited by the anime, which means you can use move like Earthquake or Magnitude when it's like the anime is not allowed to use those moves anymore or something. You can use as many moves as you want. I use 6. I'm probably gonna up it to 8 as I get to other regions, you know? But like, you know, it's not necessarily a horrible way of going about it, but if you're, let's say you're trying to come up with an XY team and you're trying to look at all the XY mons and you're just like, I don't know, fucking Klefki, it has a lot of support moves. It's like, okay, but what's its personality? It's like, it's cool that Klefki gets a lot of support moves, but like, what the hell can it even do? Like, you know, that's kind of also a factor when you're giving Ash Pokemon, especially like you're rarely in double battles. I mean, you could write exclusively double battles if you want, but like a Pokemon that can only, yeah, no, actually that would be interesting. But a Pokemon that can only support, like, it's pretty useless in battle by itself, you know?
Yeah. And it's kind of like when it comes to, oh, were you going to say something?
No, Zach, I just want to highlight this comment because Electropedra one says, taking inspiration from other media is definitely fine, though I will say some basically just copy word for word, bar for bar. That's a factor. Like, you want to say
that's true.
So, I'll go into this because I helped Abdul. He has Pinterest boards of just, like, things that relate to his characters, whether it be Ash or, like, Cinderace or whatever. And, you know, and it's like, you know, when I was helping him, like, I was just like, oh, when he describes his Ash to me, I'm reminded of like Natsu kind of from Fairy Tail. Now, that doesn't mean his Ash is Natsu from Fairy Tail, but you could see similarities, you know? And Zach said he's actually, for his full Anti-Poke rewrite, he's planning to have Ash's Pokemon based on anime characters, and he already has a couple in mind. Yeah, like that's a great way of going about it because especially if you're new to writing this. By the way, this is, I should have rewritten it off the top. Your first series is going to be bad. Especially if you're a new YouTube creator. Like, if you are not like an experienced editor, you know, like it's not going to look great as a series, you know. And if you're not an experienced writer or like content creator in that regard, it's not going to look great. Like the amount of time I told Abdul I watched his Sword and Shield series, and he went, "Why?" Why did you do that?
No, because someone in the chat said, "Oh, I want to watch Abdul Sword and Shield," and I was like, "Don't go watch SV." Like
Mhm,
SV has some like rough patches because like I had to switch editing softwares midway through, so that's why there's like some battles are that's distinctly slower and like distinctly more like rough than the ones last time. That's because I had to switch editing softwares midway through. But like, it's always going to be bad. Your first series, regardless, is always going to be bad unless you have like a massive editing backlog or a massive writing backlog that you
mhm,
have to kind of like support you.
mhm.
Like, and that's fine. It's how you learn,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
It's how you learn. It's vital. Like I'm like as much as I cringe at Sword and Shield season one, like I wouldn't have gotten where I was if I didn't do all that.
100%.
7 episodes for season one is
You know,
crazy. I'm sorry, guys.
no, 100%. Like, and it's like, if you guys look at my series and be like, wow, it's very polished. One, I'm a professional editor. I've been professionally editing for nearly 5 years now, and what you guys didn't see were all the failed channels I made in my youth with contain all my bad content. You only see the like polished stuff. And even then, in my episode 1, I didn't use sound effects. I like have these like I threw the black bars on top, the translucent ones, and they just clash with the thing because I didn't like measure them right because my characters go underneath them. Like I used them to frame, but like you're going to make mistakes in your series, you know, and like it's good. It's actually good because every episode you're improving, you're thinking, you're learning is great, you know. Um,
Also, again, minor tangent. Zach said, "Same. My Sword and Shield series feels boring in comparison to how I tackled SV." Yeah, Zach's like, "Man, this thing is so bad. Literally the best." It's like, what? No, 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 no. It's like, oh yeah, your first year is going to be bad. I agree. What?
oh my god,
What?
yeah,
That's like going to a basketball game and someone's like, "Yeah, I gotta work on my game too," and he plays like prime LeBron James. Like, what? No, you don't.
yeah,
No,
no,
you don't.
but if it like it's kind of what it's one of those funny things. But like as you write more and more series, you'll get a better handle on writing. Watching actual like videos when people go over writing and character creation, all that, even if it's not like it translates into your writing. It's one of those things. Like thinking about the world as a world is important because the last thing you want is to feel like your series is like frozen in time. Like I have a lot of stuff going on in the background in Kanto right now, and it doesn't involve Ash. Like I think this isn't a rule; it's something I prefer, but it's not something you have to do. Ash isn't the center of the universe. The universe does not revolve around him. He is just a guy going on an adventure. You know. Now if he's directly with the plot, he's directly related to the plot. That's one thing. But like people are moving, things are happening in the background. Like you don't want it to feel like every time you get to a town, people are just waiting there frozen until Ash gets there and then they activate like NPC robots like, "Okay, the plot's here, so now we can start moving," You don't need to think about it for every character, but like, remember, it's like I know what Gary, Green, and Richie have all been doing, and Misty have all been doing in the background. Even if it's not like I don't have like a full page Google Doc, but I know like, okay, so by this point they've hit up these gyms. They're probably doing this. They probably experienced this at some point, and it's very Spark Notes like written on like a notepad on my computer and stuff. But it is not like I've written their full Ash Ketchum like level adventure and stuff. It's just knowing where they are and how things are going. Where it is important. Um, and no, do you have anything to add to this, Samurai, before I delve into something else?
I mean, all all I'll really say about like the whole.
Oh, they got him. Um, but I still say watching other media outside of Pokemon has helped with my writing tremendously. Sword and Shield wrote when I just watched Pokemon. SVR now. Yeah, so actually that is an important thing. I'll go into while Samurai is muted. Watch other shows. Watch other media. Like, if you're just watching Pokemon, you're not like, let's all be clear here. Pokemon's not a well-written series. It can have great moments, but like there's a reason why you only compare Pokemon seasons against other Pokemon seasons. You're not comparing them to One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, like all the other anime in the world.
No, and I agree. It's important to just engage with other media and it helps go back into your writing. You don't even have to necessarily engage with like Violet Evergarden type stuff that's like really deep.
Mhm.
It's as simple as You're watching Pokemon, go watch Yu-Gi-Oh. You're watching
Yeah.
Pokemon, go watch Digimon. It's as simple as that, really, because all those series have different writing styles, and
Mhm.
it's in the same genre, so it's like easy to translate. Like,
Mhm.
for me personally, I know that for Sword and Shield, and like for partially Scarlet and Violet, if no one can, like, I think I said this before, but like if no one knows, I based my Ash off like Vault from Beyblade Burst.
Mhm.
Beyblade Burst is pretty much what I use as a blueprint. It's not what
Mhm.
everyone has to do. You don't have to use one of these shows, but it's just an example of you can take previous writing into not previous writing, other shows that aren't Pokemon into your new writing. Because the thing with taking other Pokemon shows and just making a season is just like, okay, so I'm just watching AG, but instead of being in Japan, we're in
Mhm.
Europe.
Yeah. Zach watched GX to help with the season 1 of Sword and Scarlet and Violet. That's a hella of a Yu-Gi-Oh series to watch. Uh Especially not as like as a kid. GX is a mind fuck of a series. It is an abridged series in a regular season of Yu-Gi-Oh's clothing. But not a bad one to watch for a school setting because it's very like episodic, day of the week. You introduce a lot of characters, you know. There's not a lot of like, it's very surface level season 1, not a lot of like going too in depth, but it is a good like idea. If like, and actually that's a great example right there. If you're writing like a Scarlet and Violet where it's a school setting, watching other animes that take place in a school setting with like not even just magical powers, like you watch an assassination classroom or like just things where people are, students are together isn't a bad thing because it can kind of help you develop ideas of just like, do you want to focus more on the school stuff if you're doing a Scarlet and Violet, or you're just like, I'm going to completely ignore the school stuff and I'm going to focus more on the, I forget what they're called. I'm going to call them totem Pokemon or like, the treasures of ruin or what you're going to do. Um, the, Sip of water. I think that can actually help kind of transition us into, plot. Um, the, um, the plot. Okay, I'm gonna establish this right now. Or Pokemon Sun and Moon, or Pokemon Sun and Moon. That's actually a good one. Um, Plot is important, yes, but I think people are very caught up, especially if you only watch Pokemon, that plot is only evil team stuff. Ash has barely interacted with Team Rocket in my Kanto series. Team Rocket is not the plot of my Kanto series. The plot of Kanto is Ash going on an adventure to get 8 badges and becoming a better trainer. That's the plot, you know? Like, you don't have to think plot of like, okay, so how will Ash, fight the evil team? If you watch the anime, 99% of the time, Ash is stumbling into the evil team. Ash is not a proactive character when it comes to evil teams. He just ends up in the situation where it happens. Take XY, for example. Ash isn't going after Team Flare. During the league, they just show up. This is where their evil plot takes place, and Ash is just there to stop them. So a kind of a factor of like when you're writing a plot is how proactive is your Ash? Because also you're never going to write Ash Ketchum. The anime is Ash Ketchum, but your Ash Ketchum, no matter how hard you try, your Ash Ketchum will always be a fanfic version of Ash Ketchum, and that's not bad. But one thing what you got to take into account for, especially if you're picking regions, which Ash Ketchum you're writing, because he is different every season. XY Ash and Kanto Ash are two completely different characters. I've gotten a lot of notes of like, for my Kanto series of like, oh, what if you show Ash's like unusual battle style? And it's like, he doesn't have that. He's an idiot. He gets by on luck and overly powerful Pokemon in Kanto for my series and for the original series. He knows nothing. He's a moron. If you're writing a Kanto Ash, you can make him XY Ash, but like, for me, I'm trying to write every region, so I have to think, and this is a factor for you. If you're going to write additional regions, keep that in mind. All your like, because a frequent problem, people who write, and when Samurai comes out, he's muted, by the way. Siblings in the background,
I
but
am back and I'm in my room, which means I have no background noise anymore.
woo! I was just telling them how a frequent problem that you and like Zach, Zano, people who write from a pre-existing Ash has, is that
Mhm.
it's really hard to find something for Ash to do when he's kind of completed his arc within 6 regions.
Okay, and I think here's the way that I had to go about it. Are you, and this is just tips for everyone else. When you're starting a new Ash series, let's just assume that you're going with Galar, right? If you're doing Ash and Galar, is this a start of a new arc, or are you just ending an arc?
Hmm.
Like example, OSAGDP, that's one arc, right? BWXY Sun and Moon, that's one arc. Is Sword and Shield going to be the end of like that arc? Is Sword and Shield going to be the end of everything? Or are you going to
Hmm.
start a new arc with Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, and insert Gen 10 here?
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's what you kind of have to figure out. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. I interrupted you. It's sort of like you kind of got to figure out how your Ash is and how he's going to grow and develop. Like, and I think an important factor is make sure he has flaws. Like, the last thing you want is Ash to be the character like, oh, everybody gets along with him and he's so nice and perfect and all that. I rate Ash to be a dick all the time and stuff. And even because one thing Pokemon anime Ash fans have is there is a bias in the community where if someone is mean to Ash, they're the devil. You know, Iris received a lot of this. She kept calling Ash a kid, and people crucified her for it. Like, how dare she do that? You know, like, you know, people like Misty kind of get the free pass because it's Kanto Ash, but it's like it's easy in your mind to be like, Ash has been through all this stuff. He's defeated Regices and Darkrai's, and he's fought legendaries and completed so many regions. How are people not kissing the ground he walks on? He's so excited. It's like, well, for one, in a lot of series, by the way, I mean, in the anime, Ash never won a league before Alola. Like, think about this in terms of sports teams. Who gives a fuck about the...
This is where I come in.
Yeah, I was like, how much do you really care? Unless it is like your favorite sports team or I will say basketball. So I stopped sounding like I'd never experienced sports in my life. The sports ball, guys.
Sports ball.
We'll do it in basketball. When you're in the finals, who do you care more about? Like, or who do people talk about when it's done? The second place people, or the third or fourth, or they talk about the people who won?
Actually,
You know, like
actually, people talk about the second place and third place a lot, but that's besides the point.
that's besides the point. But like, you know, who gives a crap about the guy who finished in top 4, you know, or top 32? Like, if Ash won a league, I can understand some people like giving him some props, but like when Ash enters a new region, no one knows who he is.
Yeah. No, and I think like for me, like in
Mhm.
my like this is something you guys get exclusive Samurai verse stuff because this doesn't spoil anything. But like the way the world kind of looks at Ash, at least in my universe, because my universe takes Ash in a sports direction more than it does like a hero or like whatever, like a hero direction, where it's like people look at him as like, so how good is he? Because like the only time he won, he was in like a small market, and like even then, it's like every
Mhm.
time he needs to win, he's kind of like, is Ash a bust? Is he a draft bust? Like that's
Yeah.
the way they look at him, where he's kind of like, sadly, a lot of you guys are gonna hate me for this. In universe, Ash definitely has potential, man, like memes about him that
Mhm.
he doesn't know about.
Yeah.
That's what he has.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he is. And
Yep.
that's like, and like that gives him flaws, A, but also B, it explains why, like it explains that the world looks at him in a like obviously outside of universe we know why Ash loses because we need to sell more stuff and we need to go to another region, but in universe it's just this kid who's like, oh, maybe he'll win this one, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's like having an Ash with flaws is a good thing. Like, my Ash is plenty flawed. He's an idiot. I keep saying it over and over again and stuff. He's stupid. He doesn't train his Pokemon at all. Like, every other trainer is progressing normally except for Ash. Everyone else is either like, obviously he's around prodigies like Green or Gary, but like they learned how to train their Pokemon. They learned how to catch more Pokemon, to plan all this stuff. You know,
Yes.
meanwhile, Ash is just like, oh, my Pokemon gets super powerful psychic powers when he gets his headache. Okay, that's good. Tangle is an unusual fighter, sick. You know, I just got to learn how to bond with Ninetales. He's not training Ninetales. He's learning how to work together with her, you know? So it's like, Ash not getting along with people is good. Like, kind of think about, like, who your Ash Ketchum is, what he stands for, like, what's going to get under his skin? How does he interact with different characters? Like, you know, someone like Misty... he's like, yeah, this bitch, you know, I don't really give a fuck about her. I'm rooting for the Gyarados kind of in her situation, you know. But
Yeah,
like,
Gyarados, get it.
nah. Also, I just want to point out, no, Axo Girl. I'm not gonna give him that excuse that he's on the spectrum. He's just dumb. You know, there's no reasoning for it. He's just dumb. That's an important lesson, guys. Some people are just dumb.
he a little stupid.
Yeah, he
He
got
a
the
little stupid.
spirit. He a little confused, but he got the spirit.
That's weird. No, look, because I saw a comment where someone's like, I think it was, let me scroll. I think it was African. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm just gonna say 2.0.
Hmm.
2.0 when they say, well, Ash is more like the Sixers. He is because
Hmm.
you know what? Like in my head, I think if Ash was to be a fan of any athlete, he'd be an Allen Iverson fan. I
Hmm.
don't know how to explain it. He'd just be an Allen Iverson fan.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do this really quickly. In all the four major U.S. sports, Ash is a fan of. For basketball, it's like Allen Iverson. For football, it's like Lamar Jackson. For baseball, it's probably Shohei. And then for I don't really know hockey all that well, so I'm just gonna go to soccer. And then for soccer, he's probably like a Cole Palmer fan. I don't really know hockey all that well.
Hmm.
I my bad. I gotta watch some hockey. But
Hmm.
like that's just I just wanted to throw that out there because I saw that comment. Like, oh, that's something that I have.
Yeah, exactly. And this is touching back on one thing we talked. Like your other interests can factor into Pokemon. Abdul
Oh,
likes
for sure.
sports. You know, the amount of time, the amount of sports references he makes when it comes to like he's telling me Ash and another character's dynamic, and he's just like, okay, it's like LeBron and whatever sports guy. You know, it's kind of like that relationship. You know, that rivalry or something. It's like if you know
Yeah,
sports, you understand that, and maybe it doesn't always have to make sense to me, but if it makes sense to Abdul, he knows how to write that dynamic. You know,
yeah,
like if you want to relate into anime terms, if you like, it's like okay, what if Ash and Gary? It's like are they like a Naruto and Sasuke, or are they like a Yuna and Asta and Black Clover? You know, it's like what are the dynamics going to be like? And you can relate that to other characters. You know, not everything has to be, you know, so like
mhm,
gimmicky, I guess
yes.
is the right word. Because I'm right as someone who wrote Kanto, I took a lot of the goofiness out of Kanto. I've tried to keep I've succeeded. I will say I've gotten a lot of comments that I've kept this, but I've tried to keep the original spirit of the Pokemon anime in my series. That's one of those that's not something you have to do, but that is a goal I put on myself that I wanted to do. Again, that kind of factors into it. What are your goals for the series? Like, what are you trying to do with this? Are you trying to retell Ash's adventure, but he's a little bit smarter? Did he wake up on time and that affects his catches? Is he trying to save the world? Is he a hero kind of guy, or is he kind of more of a bum? But you know, the like you don't have to write for all the characters in your verse. You can write them as goofy Kanto style characters where Gary's a supervillain in a sports car full of models going, smell you later, loser, and drives off, you know? Sabrina's like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna trap you in my dollhouse. Ooh. It's like, okay, what the hell is going on here? You know?
So
But also
Kanto in the original series, they were on drugs literally when they wrote. Literally, they were
you know,
on drugs when they wrote these.
yeah,
Literally.
exactly. You know, it's one of those things where if you
Mhm.
are right, like if you're writing not Ash characters, not even central characters, gym leaders, background characters like that, think about just basics. Like like Richie is actually a great example. We haven't seen a lot of him. One factor of Richie, he's very clumsy. Does that warp his personality? Does that like define his life story? No, it's just like a simple character trait, but you throw it on there and it's like, oh, that's Richie, the clumsy guy, you know? It's like,
Mhm.
you know, when I wrote Green, because she was an original character, you know, for all intents and purposes, the three like characters I related to her were like Kenpachi from Bleach, you know, Inosuke from Demon
Crazy, bro.
Slayer, crazy battle mongers. Those guys in the anime where it's like, you know, everyone else is fighting to save the world, but really I just like to fight. You know, I made her feral.
I'm just
It
I'm sorry because I'm just imagining the doodle of green that you have
yeah.
beside like a fully drawn. That's funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
big deal for me.
Yeah. There's one of those comparison there's a Venn diagram of Kenpachi and Green and it's a circle. Um but you know, I like what actually I want to factor this in here cuz we haven't touched on this yet. Battles in your series.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Because you think a lot about how your characters fight, you know, in terms of like what their battle style is.
Oh
And
yeah, 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 for
this
sure.
can kind of factor into one of the things of how are you going to show the battles? Are you going to be like Zack's series where you're going to have these like really great animated pieces of battle sets? Are they going to be very long or are you trying to keep them short? One thing when I was
Mhm.
rewatching some scenes from XY, I noticed is that while they were beautiful, a lot of the early fights before the final, like the ace of Ash and Greninja versus like the ace of Wolfric or something, a lot of the battles were very beautiful, but very quick. They didn't really matter and stuff. It was more like we're just trying to get to the main set piece here. That's not a wrong way to do it, but kind of keep in mind of what you're doing here. Does every, like, not every Pokemon needs their hero moment. I keep track of my win-loss records for my Pokemon, but that's just so I don't make someone overly lose in a battle, because sometimes Pokemon have to lose, especially when you, like,
Yes.
you don't have to power scale necessarily, but you kind of have to power scale a little bit. You know, you don't want,
Well, I
like,
think,
Kanto
like,
Ash isn't taking down Champion Lance at the end of Kanto.
mhm,
You go.
spoilers. But no, for 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 what was I saying? For like for as you said with the writing battles, I think like I've noticed this something in the anime, and I've told Dolly about this, but I haven't told other people. I think I told like one other person, but like I've noticed that there's two types of 6v6s that you can write, and neither of them are wrong. I want to like preface that neither of the ways of writing these 6v6s are wrong. It's just like what they are. You have the 6v6 that's building up to one main thing, and then you have the 6v6 that's just kind of like a 6v6 battle. Example, Ash vs. Kukui and Ash vs. Paul. Two great battles, top two battles in the series, a lot of people say. Ash vs. Paul is very clearly building to Infernape versus Electivire, and I think
Mhm.
everyone knows that to the point
Mhm.
where Infernape takes out, like, I think he takes out three Pokemon. He
Yeah.
takes out like three Pokemon, and it's like, that's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of insane. It's like that Staraptor doesn't get a single moment in this. It's like, but it's like, and then like you have obviously like Ash vs. Kukui, where obviously we know that we were gonna get Incineroar versus Torracat, but that battle happened first. So we like that it was clearly that clearly wasn't going to be the main like centerpiece of that battle. We now know that the main centerpiece of that battle, is Tapu Koko versus Pikachu. But again, didn't know that at the time. So like we could have like we just saw like a bunch of cool matches. We saw not Inferno, Incineroar and Torracat come out earlier in the battle after they had their scuffle. We saw fights that we didn't expect. Lycanroc, the ace of the last battle, lost fairly quickly. So it's like that's just an example of what I mean. Where I don't think either battle is bad. What I'm trying to say is that that's the two approaches you can have to writing a 6v6 battle. Is
Mhm.
this a battle where you're clearly building up to something, or is this more just a battle for a battle's sake? If
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Right. And or Zach wrote, or the 6v6 where every matchup is a tie.
Yes,
Um
the 6v6 for every matchup is a tie, because that's called setup. That's called setup. Y'all wouldn't know nothing about setup. Y'all wouldn't know. I went to the older school of masterclass setup. Went to the Ichiro older school of setting up things 20 years in advance. Y'all wouldn't know nothing about this.
No, but yeah, so like thinking about how Ash Ketchum, and we're obviously completely focusing on Ash, but thinking about how he fights is important. In the anime, I think one thing, it's not a confirmed thing, but it's one thing you notice is that Ash favors speedier Pokemon. He has a lot better time with a Pikachu Greninja than he does a Torkoal Torterra, you know? And that can be like that's an interesting way to think about it. I write my Ash, and for this isn't really much of a spoiler, like he's more of an all-rounder of unusual oddballs. He's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. He's the unusual battle style, you know, versus someone like Gary, who's the planner. He's very meticulous. He's like, I'm calculating this stuff. Versus Green, who is the brutalizer, who is like, my team is full of Pokemon with high attack that are here to punch your face, you know? Um, and like this kind of comes into it where it comes to moves, where like let's I'm gonna use Ash versus Cynthia as an example. Like when you're writing a battle, in a weird way, power scaling is kind of important. What's up, Infamous? The like if let's say you know how Togekiss Dynamaxed and set up speed boosts with the flying type G-Max move or whatever, you know, like let's say Togekiss had Baton Pass and stat boosting move. This kind of goes in it. Stat boosting moves are very hard to write, you know, mostly because it's sort of like how much of them do you want to make how do you treat them? Do you treat them like, you know, just, oh, he used, you know, Swords Dance and he got a little bit stronger, and that plays a factor. And if we have a comparison note where it's like, if, you know,
what's up, Infamous? He's in the chat.
Yeah, if, let's say there's an Absol versus Ash, and that Absol boosted with Swords Dance and beat Pikachu, you know, if in the next battle it doesn't use Swords Dance and loses, you can kind of power scale in their mind. It's like, oh, the Swords Dance really put it over the edge to really get the edge on Pikachu and stuff. And that's kind of one way you could write it in that way. Like, but
sure.
I think one thing you got to keep in mind when you're writing these battles is sort of audience perception. Like when it came to Lucario versus Garchomp, if Togekiss was able to like baton pass the speed boost to Garchomp and Garchomp still lost, it makes Garchomp kind of look like a jobber, because we know how strong Garchomp is. It's like, sure, it's like strategically in your mind, you're like, wow, this is really well planned. Like that it was like Cynthia's smart. She used a supporting move and baton pass to get that speed boost over to Garchomp. But then you think about kind of like the power levels of it. It's like, so with a speed boost on a Garchomp, it still couldn't beat Mega Lucario. Like, unless we have a bunch of factors, like Journeys is very bad about power scaling. Like that's just a real knock against it. That this freshly hatched Lucario is able to go toe-to-toe with champion-level Pokemon that have been training for years, but the anime doesn't care about that, so it's kind of not a knock against it. It's just a writing thing that I think is a flaw, So, like, you kind of got to think, like, if you were writing Lucario versus Garchomp, where does Lucario kind of stack up here? Does it need the Swords Dance to be able to even match Garchomp? Like, if someone's clearly a stronger opponent, like, making them even more abnormally strong with stat boosting moves and having them still lose doesn't make your Pokemon look better. It makes the other Pokemon look worse. And it might just be a perception
thing. Putting a hat on a hat on a hat.
Right, exactly. So when you're choosing your moves, be careful, of like what you're going to do. You've done something with stat boosting moves. It's not in your series yet, right?
Yeah, no. That Swords Dance thing was a thing where in Ash vs Rinto, at least they're matching the Galar League. The way I have Rinto Swords Dance work is that it's more of like we got to take this thing out fast kind of thing, where he'll rarely use it multiple because of what it is. The way I like say it in universe is that using Swords Dance kind of raises all his stats once, so he doesn't really need to use it twice. This is just so I'm not saying, oh, he's spamming Swords Dance, but also like just to kind of tell the audience, Ash in his head will be like, shit, I gotta take this guy out fast. Like he's like, shit, oh no, it's like Destiny Bond immediately.
Yeah, it's kind of the way I would. It's like a Kaioken or like a Rock Lee opening the gates kind of moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're just like, oh like, shit.
And it's like, overall, when it comes back to Ash for Cynthia, because like I see people talking about it in the chat, I think overall I would have just gone with Mega Garchomp versus Mega Lucario. The only reason why I think they did it is because they wanted Lucario to look better. I don't know, maybe it's because they wanted you to like. I really don't know what they were going with. I'll be honest, I think the Masters 8 was written by 15 different people who were not on the same page at all.
Yeah. And this also plays.
What do you mean Cynthia has a Mega Garchomp?
This plays into another fact about battles. Pokemon fans, which if you're writing a Pokemon series, that's your audience. They don't care how many Pokemon worked to take. Like, we'll take. I'm going to use Garchomp as an example.
Darkrai.
Darkrai. That's what I was thinking of. Okay, no one cares that it took Ash like 4 Pokemon to even defeat Darkrai. All anyone talks about is that Sceptile beat a Darkrai. And on the surface level, it seems like Sceptile 1v1 Darkrai, ignoring Torkoal, Swellow, Heracross, ignoring all those factors. And yeah, not everybody contributed to like that much damage or something. But like when you're writing a battle, no one kind of thinks about how many Pokemon was used to take down one Pokemon. They just think about who's dealing the final blow. It doesn't mean it's not something you shouldn't write in your series, but it's something to keep in mind.
Also, Ash is low-key kind of sick. Like, why would you send out Gible against Darkrai? Like, no one ever really thinks about this.
Yeah.
Gible is fresh. Like, Gible has like a 6 months level of experience. You know what Ash sends him out against? Darkrai. If I was Gible, I would never talk to Ash ever again. Why would you do this? You had Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charizard at the lab, or it could have been called, and you sent me out?
Yeah,
it's Draco Meteor last week.
Yeah, like it's like actually here's a battle I want to use as an example too. Ash versus the Striaton Gym. A battle people regularly give it shit because Pikachu lost to Panpour, ignoring the fact that in Sinnoh, Pikachu with Iron Tail lost to an Onix that used Screech on it to knock it out. But we're not getting into that. When you are doing a battle, there are certain Pokemon you want to highlight in that battle. In that Striaton battle, it was Tepig and Oshawott. So if you're doing a best of 3, Pikachu has to lose if you want Tepig and Oshawott to get a win. Otherwise,
Yeah.
like it's kind of like if you just say like say you don't do the Pikachu battle, say it's Tepig and Oshawott first, and they win their battles, and Ash just wins the thing. Well, if you want to do all three battles in that instance, like they did, someone has to lose. And if you're trying to show off the new Unova Pokemon, Pikachu's got to lose. And you can write it in a way that doesn't feel like bad. I watched that battle. I don't understand the hate for it because it looks good, and I can understand why Pikachu lost that. But like, you know, it's a that kind of comes into the play of Pokemon does not power scale. Like Pikachu taking on a Regice and taking down a Latios doesn't factor into the next season of Pikachu versus level 5 Pokemon. So, and this is a factor I'm taking in consideration as someone who's writing a Pikachu that's going to travel with Ash all throughout the thing. When I get to Gen 3, Pikachu is not participating in the first gym. He will have 2 leagues underneath his belt. He is not going against the, I write gym leaders as their teams, depending on which order you face them, they scale it themselves in universe to the level of badges you have,
Yeah, what Origins does, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like Origins does.
One of the good things that Origins ever did.
Yeah,
the one good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And Pikachu's a very hard Pokemon to fight, to use in future battles, especially when you're starting off against newbies. I mean, they touched upon it in Johto, where it's like it's easy to forget that because Pikachu's unevolved, so it's just like, oh, Pikachu versus a Bulbasaur. It's like that's a pretty even match. It's like, no, Pikachu just, defeated 3 legendaries in the previous conference. So it's kind of like this is a nothing battle for him. So like, go for it.
Continue. No, I was gonna say the way I kind of write Pikachu is I just write him as a glass cannon, where it's like when Ash needs Pikachu to be clutch, he will be clutch. But most of the time, if you can hit Pikachu hard enough, he's going down. Because again, at the end of the day, it is like a mouse that is like 2 pounds. Like, I'm sorry, if an Ursaring flipping pile drives Pikachu, that's gonna do some damage regardless of what Pikachu fought.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking on Pikachu, this is kind of going back to an earlier point. He's also a character. And it's one thing the anime has kind of almost forgotten, as time goes on, where he and Ash are pretty synonymous as just one being almost, where like Pikachu's just generally a nice Pokemon. And that's fine. But like he doesn't he doesn't really have like the usual gags like where he's like obsessed with ketchup or he's kind of a dick. Like, I haven't touched on Pikachu a lot in my series, mostly because I have 5 new Pokemon I have to get you to like more, and Pikachu has 6 regions at least to go through to develop as a character. I got plans for Pikachu character development. But like remembering to write Pikachu as a character is also just as important as remembering to write Ash as a character.
For sure. No, for sure, for sure. I think the reason why I just don't write Pikachu as like this is more for me is more or less because like he's kind of super established to the point where I just treat him as an extension of Ash,
and that's kind of plays into factor.
I roll.
Yeah, that plays into the factor of
I roll, but
what region you start in. I'm writing a fresh Pikachu. You're writing a Pikachu that has like when you're starting from a pre-existing regions. Where Ash has, like, say you're starting in Unova and he has all up to Sinnoh underneath his belt. You can't make him too different of a character. You can develop him in new directions, and development isn't necessarily power. Like, when Ash is in, let's say, if you're writing an Ash in Galar, it's going to be hard, but you're going to have to come up with almost a new mental obstacle or challenge for Ash to overcome. And in some ways, it can't just be that like, wow, these guys are really strong. I'm really going to have to like up my A game or something. Doesn't mean you can't do that, but like sort of like if Ash is this experienced of a trainer, you got to write him with experience. So you kind of got to figure out what is his conflict, and is it an external factor like an evil team or a legendary or something? Is it more of a personal conflict?
And also like I'm gonna jump on your point, Dolly, but I just want to answer this question. I think the Ash Greninja retcon is one of those things where I would never do it as a like if I was writing the anime, I would never do it. Does it bother me a lot? No, but like, do I think it's dumb? Also, yes, because it's like there's kind of no reason to. Like its existence doesn't hurt anything now.
Mhm.
So it's like it's whatever. It's one of those things where it's either you're gonna love it or you hate it. And then like to answer everyone's question, Samurai verse, it still happened. It still happened. I have no reason to retcon it.
Mhm.
But for Dolly to jump on what you were talking about, where it's like you gotta know how your Ash battles and to kind of put into like kind of put this whole topic for me is like you got to kind of figure out what your and this sounds crazy to say because Pokemon in itself is a battle system. You got to kind of figure out how battle systems work for you
Mhm.
because like for me I split up like Pokemon like trainers in four kind of categories. I already revealed this so I'm fine with sharing it. Like for Ash he is a speedster, but for like let's use Raihan for an example. Raihan, a lot of people could say oh he's like a brutalizer. If you actually look at what Raihan does, he's more of a tactician in the vein of Cynthia because he uses
Mhm.
weather mechanics.
Mhm.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
Yeah, you're good. Um, there is this is something touching on Pikachu. Uh, and this is kind of how you treat the team. Now, one thing I am fully against, and I do not put in my series, is an ace Pokemon for Ash's team. And that's because usually I think you fall into the trap of Infernape and Greninja, where they're just kind of the star of the region, and the other Pokemon kind of fall to the wayside. They can have like a
For sure.
Hawlucha level personality or something, where but Hawlucha stands strong on Ash's XY team in spite of Greninja, not because like they've made sure to develop Hawlucha well in this way, you know? Like it's like you capitalize on that its
For sure.
species is its personality, and so you don't really need to focus on it. But because its species is personality, you have pre-existing stuff to draw upon that you don't really need to worry about.
Yeah,
Talonflame
for sure.
sucks. He's a nothing burger
Yes,
of a
thank you.
bird.
I love hitting on top of it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it is a like he's a nothing burger of a bird. Now, all the other birds are pretty
He's
nothing
the
burger,
J.R. Smith of
you
Ashburns.
know, but like when you have an ace, you know, it doesn't mean you can't use one. If you want to use one, feel free. I don't like writing aces because I like writing the Ash's Kanto team or his Johto team. They're a team. It is not, you
Mm,
know, like speaking of my team, like Ninetales is like the Charizard kind of like equivalent kind of factor, you know,
mm,
but like it is not the ace Pokemon. It maybe in power rankings, you can still have power rankings on this team of who's stronger than who. But like I don't feel the need where let's say Ninetales is the strongest on the team. I don't feel like Ash's final battle has to come down against Ninetales versus Gary's Blastoise and it's the final
yeah.
conflict and stuff. It's like, no, it could be Tangela versus Gary's Pidgeot, you know, if that is the final battle. Like sure you're going to have some set pieces where it is someone's strongest, like the Ash's mega evolution or like his ace Pokemon versus someone else's ace Pokemon. You're going to have some battles like that, but not every battle needs to come down to that. You know, like
Mhm.
every Pokemon
No,
on the team is important.
no, yeah, for sure. I'm more susceptible to writing aces more or less because they're an ace, yes, in terms of the way I treat them, but in
Mhm.
universe, they're probably like we're gonna use Cinderace as an example. Actually, Cinderace would technically be his ace, but like power ranking wise, like he's around the same level as like if you take the whole like all of Ash's Pokemon, he's probably just under Sceptile, like he's
Mhm.
probably Battle Frontier level. But for
Mhm.
but on the team, he's probably just under Pikachu, and Corviknight's probably even with him. And it's
Mhm.
like one of those things where it's like writing aces can be fun, but it's definitely like not every ace kind of needs to be the Infernape or Greninja level of storytelling. You
Mhm.
can just have like the Sceptiles, Crocodile, and Lycanrocs, which are just like and like Crocodile's so funny to me because he's just kind of a crocodile with glasses, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, Ace. He's like,
Mhm.
huh? What?
Mhm.
It's like sometimes like sometimes sucked at the beginning. Like he had Pound and Battle Frontier, and we were like Ace, and we
Yeah.
and like realistically, like no, but like I guess
Yeah, people like talk about like Ash's his like Ace of Johto, and people usually will say it's oh, it's like Heracross. It's like, what did
Heracross,
Heracross do in Johto that was like he's the ace? He's had maybe 2 to 3 battles total,
I
you
know more
know?
gyms.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where like um
If I was
no,
if I
continue.
was Charizard and I carried Ash through like what's his face, and I carried Ash through Johto only to hear that I'm not the Johto Ace and some random beetle is, I would be so hot. You know, I'd be so pissed. I was like, I did all of this just for
Mhm.
him to nah,
Exactly.
nah.
Um it's one of those things where like, you know, when you write an ace, you can have a strongest Pokemon on the team, but you got to make sure if you're writing this ace who might have the overall Greninja or Infernape level narrative of the region, you don't let everyone else fall to the wayside in spite of it. You don't doesn't mean every episode has to like you have to make sure you include the focus episodes, but I should still be like they should still be able to be successful and shouldn't be like, well, I guess Buizel, Staraptor, and Torterra need to lose a lot because Infernape needs to look cool. You know, I was analyzing flying type battles because I was planning out a video. I'm not sure if I'll ever make it, but I was planning out a video of like which is Ash's bird statistically. And one comparison I kind of thought about or saw was Pikachu and Swellow in Tate and Liza battle versus Frogadier and Talonflame in the Olympia battle. Now, in the Tate and Liza battle, Pikachu and Swellow are a team working together, and the victory at the end feels earned that both of them won. Now, in the Olympia battle, Talonflame does take out one of the Meowsticks, yes. But then we cut away to Ash Greninja foreshadowing with Frogadier where he's holding the water pulse and it's all cool and all that. And it's like, did Talonflame get a victory in that battle? Yes. It wasn't like that you had Talonflame lose and Frogadier had to clean up the battle himself. And did they work together? Yeah. But like, my takeaway from the battle isn't, wow, Talonflame got a dub and so did Frogadier. It's like, oh, Frogadier won this battle. Like, this is the Frogadier moment right here. You know, it doesn't mean you can't do that, but like, it's one of those things where like, you kind of keep in mind of what you're showing off and when you want to show it off. Some gym battles are great for that, but like also make sure you give attention to everyone else.
Also, to answer some questions in the chat, my thought on the kid flashbacks and X and Y are like just going all of them. Like
Mhm.
for the Serena and Ash one, kind of feels forced. Like it's
Mhm.
whatever. I'm past it. It's like one of those things where it's just like they just need to set this up and it just exists. For like all the other ones with like the one where the Ash comes in and comforts a bunch of Pokemon, it's weird because it's this like weird version of Ash where it's like I feel like XY sometimes takes place in a different universe because
Mhm.
like there's no way Kid Ash was like that. There's no way Kid Ash was like. There's
It's
no way he was that calm.
so
You're telling me he was like this calm, respectful little kid, and then he turned into a brat, and then he went back to calm? What
yeah.
happened?
So, you know, if you've been in
And
my
then to
streams,
answer the
no, continue first.
no, and then to answer the second question with the how do you feel about Pokemon using non-moves in battles like the Frubbles? I love the Frubbles. I love when Oshawott uses Scout Chop. I love that. You don't understand how sad I am that Greninja doesn't use Frubbles. You
Mhm.
don't understand the
So,
amount of sadness I feel every time I'm like, if Ash had Frubbles, he could be. If Ash had Frubbles, he'd be able to slow Charizard down, and he could maybe gotten some more hits in. No, Greninja doesn't have Frubbles because we're Pokemon and we suck.
no, so that's actually it's something I take into consideration a lot with my Pokemon. Thinking about the biology of a Pokemon. Like, they're not a static game character in your rewrite. The world is your oyster. Like, you can think about this in a realistic sense of like, we've never seen a Cubone pull off its, you know, its helmet, you know, its skull, like mask. You could do that.
Yes,
I mean, it's
yes.
not it's not like it's unless you write that like it's physically attached to its head, but we've seen it's not, you know. Like, it could realistically remove that, you know? Like, it's a you know, the biology of a Pokemon is important in how it moves, how you can think of battles, of how it fights. I was never considered Rapidash for Ash just because it's really hard for me to figure out how a horse would fight.
Yes.
But it's not like I'm animating I have to animate a horse physically brawling with someone. It's just like moving characters across the screen, clashing. Oh, it jumped. Shit like that, you know? But like, it's hard for me to picture how it fights because in my head, I play the battles out like they are full level animated, you know, Toei,
Yeah.
you know, One Piece level fights going on. But then I
That's
animate them
pacing.
like a PowerPoint slide. Oh, actually, sorry, I said PowerPoint slide and it reminded me of something. When you're doing your first thing, you don't need to produce like the same level of like, you know, like the
You
top
don't need
tier
to be
brewers.
Zach.
Yeah, actually,
You
yeah.
don't need to be
Basically,
Zach.
you don't need to make Zach level content. You could literally make PowerPoint slides and have it be kind of a storybook thing as you tell your story. You know, like
Also,
you
to
do that.
uh,
Continue.
Also to answer the question, because we finally got a first question about like one of the series. To answer the question, fandom, how I came up with the Cyclozar evolution. I didn't do anything design wise. I literally just gave it to the artist. Like, can you make a Cyclozar evolution that mixes elements of Koraidon and Miraidon? The reason why it happened is because this is just something I personally share. Like, I know like Zach gave Ash Koraidon. Some people might give him Miraidon. For me, Ash always resembles like because he's in the now, so he represents the present, which is why he didn't get Koraidon or Miraidon. So he just got an evolved form of it. So
Hmm.
like that's how I came up with it. But to also jump on your point, Dolly, about how like you don't need to be like Zach. Yeah, you don't need to be like Zach in terms of like like your graphics. We're gonna say graphics or animation.
Hmm.
Animation is a better word. You don't need to have like this stunning keyframe animation because that takes a lot of time. You have to like it takes a lot of time to learn, and it's like it's one of those things that's never gonna look good when you first try it.
Hmm.
So, and I think I know where you're going with this. Your composition is what's gonna carry you here. You got to
Yes.
learn how to like make a scene look good. You got to
Hmm.
learn how perspective works a little bit. You got to know how to like size the characters right. You don't have to size them to like the Pokemon's like Charizard's like 5 feet tall. So like in all honesty, Charizard should be shorter than Leon, who I think is like 6 foot. But
Hmm.
like you can make Charizard taller than Leon, and I don't think anyone's gonna like bitch or moan to you.
Yeah, you're not constrained by the way of the rules of the dex. You can have a Charizard that is like 7 foot if you wanted to. Just because the dex says he's 5'9" or some shit doesn't mean you have a 5'9" Charizard. You can size him how you feel comfortable. Like, I like realistically in my series, because the way I draw Ash and everything, like very cartoony, like Pikachu should be able to fit on Ash's shoulder. But the way he's drawn and the way the sizes look, it's kind of like, wow, that'd be very awkward, even though he fully comfortably fits on Ash's shoulder. Um, it's when it comes to yeah, like composition for it. Actually, let me grab I think I have a screenshot here that I just took. Um, there we go. So I just snapped this from Zach series because he's always a good example for all this. You see how all the characters have Pokemon next to them and they're all sized very well. There's a depth of field where the Pokemon are in front or behind, and you can kind of see it's
Could
like
you
they're
share this in the DM so I could see it?
yeah,
Because the stream is delayed.
yeah. Um yeah. Because me
All right, cool,
um
cool, cool. Thank you.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's like there's space on the screen so you are not overwhelmed by every character being on top of each other. You feel like they're in a scene and not plastered on a scene. Now, backgrounds are very hard to get. It is a struggle for everyone. I regularly will take scenes from the anime of like certain things and be able to Photoshop characters or like certain objects out to create a blank scene for me to work with. I also draw a lot of stuff. So I can, my last episode, I needed the route below Lavender Town, which is like log bridges. So I took an ocean scene and drew logs over them. One of my,
Mhm.
strengths is that I'm an artist. So unlike, like if you don't have the money to commission stuff, like I don't have the money to commission stuff. So I draw all my stuff. And in that way, it gives me a style,
Mhm.
samurai, and that's actually a factor of like, what's your style going to be? It's something you develop over time, by the way. It's not something you have to it's not a prerequisite where you have to decide in this moment what your style is. But like consistency with your style is important. Like if you take
Well, actually,
all,
I'll share.
yeah, go for it.
I'll share like a screen cap of something that I think like kind of shows why composition is important. Keep talking. I'm looking for it.
Mhm. But like it's something that bothers me where like for every other character in my series, or every other Pokemon in my series, they are the dream world art. Um, and that's what I like to use. Also because it's easy for me to edit if I need it. I got the scene for one of my episodes. It's just the Beedrill episode. Um,
I also
but
shared one of my scenes that you could use.
yes, I will grab that.
I'm talking about my thing, but you go first.
Yeah, no, this is a great one actually. But so like I use the Dream World art for every Pokemon that isn't Ash's. For Ash's team members, I draw because I have
Mhm.
because like they're characters, so they're gonna have a lot more expressions, and I can draw different things or draw them in different poses and do all that because I draw all my shit. You know, um, so like it doesn't take your focus away, but like it's also like if I in this Beedrill Armada, if I had a random of the like official Beedrill art in there, it kind of stands out, you know?
Mhm.
So you might not always be able to do this. I'm very blessed in that I can draw all my assets, so I can any character I want, I can have in the same style as when I'm doing stuff. It's the Pokemon is the only thing I really have to worry about. Um,
Mhm.
but like what you don't want to do is have random 3D models with Dream World art, with official art, with sprites or something and stuff. Like to go to Samurai's art, putting that on screen. This is one of his compositions from one of his episodes, and he uses sprite work. You know,
That background is alabaster.
wait,
See, this is something I'm going to talk
that
about.
is
Learn
Alabasta.
how to be resourceful.
Yeah.
Learn how to be resourceful. This is something that everyone can learn. Learn how to be resourceful.
Yep.
Neil learn how to like Loki learn how to use Photoshop. Like the one I use like I don't use Photoshop exactly, but
Hmm.
learn how to use some sort of photo editing software that will save you so much time,
Hmm.
money because commissions are expensive. And
Yep.
it's like if you have the money for commissions, go nuts. But sadly, not everybody got the money for commissions. So learn how to be resourceful because Zach, I didn't know that was Alabasta.
Yeah, I did
So
not
like,
realize that, and I was like, oh, that is Alabasta. I will
so like
generally take from no continue.
So like learn how to use what you call again. Learn how to just be resourceful with what you have. Like if you've seen the I think is it the last episode of Scarlet Violet? Yeah, it's the last episode of Scarlet Violet, the end of season 1. Like when you look at that episode, you'll see that Iron Thorns thing. I made that in Krita, which is like
Yeah,
Photoshop. I made that in Krita. I did not commission that
yeah.
because I'm not like respectfully, I'm not getting that commission because it's something that's going to only appear for like 1 to 2 episodes, maybe
Hmm.
3 if I feel like it. 1 to 2 episodes. So it's not something I really need to be commissioned because it's something that'll never really come up again. So
Hmm.
it's like learn how to be resourceful, learn how to like just learn how to use a bunch of different things at your disposal because it's
Yeah,
gonna save you time, money, and it's just Alabasta from One Piece.
yeah.
That's Triple A's. Alabasta from One Piece.
But
But
like,
that's just something I wanted to talk about.
yeah, but and so it's like my scene here with with all the B drills and stuff. This background is from an episode of Horizons where I think they're about to go fight like spoilers, Zygarde and all that. I think it's like the episode before that where I was like, I needed a dark wooded background, so I found that, and then I was able to use that as like a dark woods, as a setting. And I also like photoshopped people out. As you can see here, this is from Area Zero in Samurai's, and he
Yeah.
used the positioning of the mountain. Like the composition is important. Like you can clearly tell depth of field from this, of like, okay, the giraffe or the photographs are really far back. Bravier is up in the sky. Iron Valiant is in the foreground. The Raichus are in the background. You can tell where everybody is.
The only thing that I would say I kind of didn't need to put here,
Mhm,
I maybe should have put another Pokemon in the air, and maybe Corviknight didn't need to be there
mhm,
because he's kind of just there because what it's supposed to like what the scene is supposed to like portray to you is that Iron Valiant is the center of attention in this image, right? So he's in the middle. You get drawn to Iron Valiant. So as you look around, because the way my videos are set up, they are set up kind of like PowerPoints where I will be talking when like one of these things are on. So like you'll be drawn to something. So like if you go to where the Raichus are, you're like, okay, 2 Raichus, one of them like 3 Raichus and one of them is female. You'll see the 2 Farugras up there. You'll see the different colors of Flababe. No, that's Floettes, not Flababe. Floettes in the sky, and then you'll see
mhm.
Braviary and Corviknight to the other side. So it's like, but this is an example of how like composition should work, where it's like, cool, you understand like, oh, this is
Mhm.
like this is an example of how composition should work in like one example.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's all depending on the tools at your disposal. Like it's one of those things where I'm trying to find a good scene I can draw upon. That'll be easy real fast. Like I need a lot of forest backgrounds. Another factor, by the way, when you are searching for backgrounds, keep in mind the region you're in. I've actually searched through Johto episodes for forest backgrounds, but the type of forest in Johto is different in Kanto. There's a lot of mountains in the background. It's very pine tree oriented. So it's like,
Yes.
what you don't want to do is take a scene that is clearly like an Alola Hoenn and be like, this is in Kanto. It's like it might not be a big thing, but it is a like one of those things where it can not take a viewer out, but distract them. And the last thing you want is to be able to distract your viewers. But like in terms of how I make my backgrounds, just to go over that real fast, is that like this is a screenshot from one of the anime episodes. It's a Farfetch'd episode where it's like I got Misty here. I could just take this brush in Photoshop because I know Photoshop. There's another method to do it. This is like the sloppy way, where, I can mask her out of that scene. And then, you just touch up the background a little and stuff. Like, obviously I'm doing this like really crappily, really fast, but like, look, now I have a scene right here. I got to get rid of this, bottom bar down here, obviously, like the time code. But like, I just created a background like that. Um,
Mhm.
that's one of my strengths. That's how I'm able to get a lot of backgrounds. Um,
Mhm. Also,
the
to answer your question, oh, wait, continue.
no, no, you continue.
No, I was gonna say to answer your question, fandom. The reason why I did the Karada Maridon, like loosely basing it off Romeo and Juliet, I just needed a very simple way to like communicate to the audience that Karada and Maridon care for each other. You
Mhm,
could see it as romantic, or you could see it as platonic. I don't really have an answer for
mhm,
you because it's one of those things that will probably never be touched upon again. But
mhm.
it's one of those things where I just need to immediately get across why they left, and that's just a really like Romeo and Juliet is just a really easy writing structure in order for people
Yeah,
to understand because people understood it immediately, and that's what I was trying to get across.
yeah. Going
But
and
continue.
and going back to kind of a no limits thing, like I don't do original Pokemon in my series. I don't do original Mega Evolutions. I don't do like original regular evolutions. You've done a Cyclizar evolution.
Yes.
Um, and that's one of those factors that is up to you. Like one thing I'm never going to do is I'm not going to take any of the Let's Go moves for Pikachu, and give it to them just because I don't like using them.
Yeah.
You know,
Could
you're
you
free to use
imagine
them.
doing the Let's Go moves for Ash? Like, could
Yeah.
you imagine if a writer did that,
Use Glitzy
especially when we
Glow.
never saw it coming? He
uh,
knows who I'm talking to. He knows who I'm talking
oh,
to.
yeah, don't worry. Um, but so it's like, again, you have creative freedom on here. There is always the factor of, and it's one thing to factor into your writing. You're writing to an audience, and you're not, and it's like, if you're trying to get views on YouTube, like in some ways, like I get a lot of freedom with my series. I do not get any flack or pushback. Part of that is because I do the Q&A streams where I explain all my ideas of why I did the crazy thing I did. So because I've never really had a bad reaction from my audience of like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why'd you replace Misty with Giselle? I do the stream afterwards the next day or now on the same day, and they get to ask that question, and I get to go over my reasoning, and people are like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, that's interesting that you did that." And Q&A streams or like being able to explain to your audience why you do certain things, invaluable. It will actually help you in a long run. It doesn't mean you have to stream. You could even just answer questions in community notes, or in the comment
Yeah.
section. But
Also, like, yeah, that, yeah, it's for me too. My
mhm,
Twitter is always open. Shoot me a DM every time you have a questions about something in the Samurai verse that
mhm,
doesn't really make sense to you or something that you want more insight on. I'm
mhm,
always down to explain it. You don't have to wait for me to do a once in a blue moon live stream. It's like
no.
Samurai's live streaming. It's been 3 million years.
Exactly. But the factor I wanted to get into is that you're writing for yourself because obviously you want to write a series you enjoy. You're also writing for an audience. Now, it does not mean every audience suggestion or what the audience wants should dictate what you're writing or how you're writing. But in my most recent episode, I one thing I know is that people love green in my series. People loved green when she appeared. They want more green.
Mhm,
I found a
mhm.
way I could easily insert her into this episode and the following episodes, and it made sense and it went well. And it wasn't any strain on me. I didn't hate it. I wasn't like, you should like all your characters, by the way, even the ones that are bad guys. Like, you should be able to like writing them in some form or fashion because it's going to be really brutal if you have a character in your main cast or in your side cast that is important and you despise having to use them and stuff. That will
And I
make
think
everything feel harder.
and every writer I've talked to, like I've talked to Dolly, Zano, Alex. I'm unsure about you, Infamous, because we haven't really talked about this. Every writer I've talked to, we all share this one thing. No one likes writing Team Rocket, which is why
Yep.
like they never appeared in my series. Or like even in Dolly, he was saying earlier in the stream that like they rarely appear. It's kind of because no one likes writing them because
Right.
them by design are just made for formulaic plots. Like whenever you just need like, oh, this Pokemon just has to evolve in this episode, boom, Team
Yeah.
Rocket. Like those Clodsire evolved in a Team Rocket episode. I was like, oh, it just has to evolve. Team Rocket. They're great for that. But the problem is like having to write them, like forcing yourself to write them, you're not gonna like them. So it's like, eh.
Yeah, Team Rocket I've always found are most interesting when they're not being Team Rocket and they're being themselves and stuff. One of my favorite, like not even one of my favorite episodes, but it sticks in my brain is an episode in Sinnoh when Meowth and James help Ash and the gang teach an Electrike how to I think it's trying to control its accuracy with Thunderbolt, or Thunder or
Yes, I
something.
remember this.
And that's a fun episode. The episodes were like some of my favorite episodes are where Jessie is just a coordinator and there's not like Team Rocket
Sure.
came over with this thing where Infamous, me and Samurai gotta get with you and help you and talk writing because I'm very interested in seeing what you're writing and all that. But Team Rocket's always they're interesting characters. They're really cool characters, but they're always they're used in the anime, especially in Kanto, for just setting up conflict. And that is one thing you're gonna have to learn as a writer. Like if you're gonna have conflict in an episode, you don't always need conflict. Like in my episode where Ash catches Jigglypuff, quote unquote. There's 3 different parts to that episode where there's the Ash episode, the Giselle episode, and the Brock episode. And there's minor conflicts in that. Like Brock's egg gets stolen. Giselle has to do a battle. I think that's where Ash faces Sabrina in that episode, I think. Or it's just the Jigglypuff episode. I can't remember. But but the important part about that is you have little minor conflicts. And the Team Rocket is great in some instances if they're around and you want to use them. They're great for setting up a conflict and stuff. However, if you use them too much, like the anime does, they become formulaic. I watched the Giselle episode when she debuted and all that. Team Rocket, we will just cut to Team Rocket watching Ash and the gang, and then at the end, they just show up, and then the students throw Pokeballs at them and they run away. Why were they in that episode? There's no point to them. There wasn't even wasn't even like they came and they stole Cubone and we got to get them back and stuff. You could easily have just had that episode without them, and the conflict is just Ash fighting Giselle.
Yeah. I remember when I was first watching X and Y, I would really be enjoying an episode. I'm like, wow, this episode's great. I can't wait to see where it goes. Oh, Team Rocket's here.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet day.
Yeah, exactly. So, thinking of, when you're writing an episode out, of, what is the, conflict episode? Sometimes, in some ways, you actually kind of have to have a conflict every episode. It doesn't have to be this wild Skarmory is attacking us and stuff, but, you have to have something that goes on. Otherwise, it's just people standing around and talking. And that's kind of continue.
I was gonna say I think this can go into the pacing discussion a little bit, but I'll give it to you later. I'll give it to you. I give it to both of you. I'll give it to you later. No. Later. Sorry, but
no.
Yeah. What was I saying? I think just going based on what you said, where it comes to characters that you have to like writing, for example, I often like writing for Sword and Shield specifically. I actually liked writing Chase and Elaine more than I liked writing Ash. And going on what you said about Green and the fandom reception, I don't know if people know this, but Elaine was not supposed to be as big of as much as a major character as she was. She's still gonna be there, but in the pecking order, it was gonna be Ash, Chase, then Elaine. But then the pecking order kind of switched midway through because I used to skip her gym battles kind of often, or skip her battles kind of often because I had something for Ash or I had something for Chase, and I thought she wasn't going to be as popular. But then I kept on getting comments being like, "Can you please show an Elaine gym battle? I really like her, and I would really like to see her." And I was like, "Dang, people like her. Okay, you know what? Let's give her more. No, Elaine, you get the stage. Here you go.
Yeah,
here you go. You get the stage."
Exactly. It's again, in fact, like I said before, you don't have to make your audience should never dictate your story. However, if you know you can do some things that your audience will love and you actively choose to not do them in spite of them, they're going to feel that in the writing. It's and also it just helps you, especially if you're trying to get views. I write these episodes the way I write them, and I like writing them, but I also write them trying to get views and stuff. Giselle was a character I did not expect people to love as much. I will constantly get, comments like, is Giselle going to be in a gym battle? When's she going to catch her no Pokemon? Can we see more Giselle? Can we do this? And stuff. Ash is my main character. And it's one of those things where it's can it be a little annoying? Yeah, but I'm honestly so happy that people like this, for all intents and purposes, his own original character, you know?
Mhm.
Because if you're using existing anime characters, um, there is, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like when it comes to eliminating characters that you're not going to use, like I took away Misty as a companion, and it's because really when it came to her journey, I didn't really know what to do with her. And just like the anime didn't know. It's like, yeah, she's trying to become a water type master. What does that mean? Is she competing in gym battles? Is she just constantly training water type Pokemon? It's like, that's fine. But if you don't know how to take a character anywhere else, and this is speaking in terms of companions, like,
Sure.
then it's kind of like, why are they around? Like, why do you need them? Every companion around Ash should fill some sort of role and stuff, even if they're not like, it's like, this character's going for contests or something, they should have something. Zach, that is one character I want to pick your brain about because I love how you wrote Hop and the focus you put on Hop. Like that's a great example of like taking a character, like one of the companion characters, and giving them their own arc over time that isn't solely just Ash Ketchum. It revolved around Ash, because that's all. Yeah, continue.
And I think this is kind of something that, like, I think this is genuinely one of XY's biggest flaws. It's like, I understand what they were trying to go for. The problem is, it's like, XY had this issue where everyone in their mom glazed Ash Ketchum, and it got really annoying to the point where it's like, XY and OS, I say this all the time, XY and OS have the same issue where they're extremes on two different sides of a coin. Where it's like, in OS, everyone hated on Ash to like an extreme extent.
Yeah.
But in XY, everyone loved Ash to an extreme extent, and there was no middle ground. And that was my issue with both series, where it's like it's the companions treating him as the extreme, where it's like, yeah, you can have a companion where Ash doesn't really get along with them. Like that's Go in my series, where Ash and Go have a very petty back and forth kind of banter, where Go will be like, "You tied when it counted most," and then Ash will be like, "You're short."
Yeah, exactly.
Ash will be like, "You're short."
Know the difference between banter and conflict. That is also a big factor. Like, your Go and Ash, they banter. But if two characters, like Ash and let's say Ash and Giselle, if those two hate each other and they're constantly fighting, why the fuck are they traveling together? Like, would you just
Ash and Paul would never work as
a duo like that,
Yes.
It's like if you have two characters and they don't get along at all, like think about yourself. Would you just travel around a region with a guy you don't fuck with like that? Who you're just constantly arguing?
I'm doing a stream with a guy. I'm doing a stream with a guy I don't like that.
I gotta restrain myself so hard for all my usual jokes with you. Like I got like I got Goku in my ear right now, like, no, stop it. Don't.
No, but continue.
No, well, to answer one question, Ashton Blaze, for one reason, I mean, in my series, why I don't use Pokemon biological features in battle, in some ways I have, and stuff like, the, Psyduck's headache stuff is kind of a biological factor of it. It is kind of unique to Psyduck. Psyducks are prone to get headaches. He just has an extremely powerful headache in comparison to normal Psyduck, which makes him, like, weird and extraordinary, which is a running theme with Ash's team in my series of like weirdos who do things. Like Ninetales, spoiler alert, her ability is Flash Fire. She's able to set herself ablaze, like we've seen, and it doesn't hurt her because she's immune to fire. I don't have too many Pokemon with like huge biological differences like a Heracross where it has wings and it can fly around and I can take advantage of that. So it's not just solely a land fighter. But like that is a factor that I'm thinking of and keeping that will happen more in the future, But and this is kind of a quick note. Think of your battles kind of realistically, where I know in the games a Gengar or a Haunter now, because Gengar doesn't have it anymore. A Haunter with Levitate can't be hit by a ground type move like Bone Meringue, or actually better example, a flying type like Pidgeotto can't be hit by a Bone Meringue in the game. It's immune to it because it's a flying type. However, like if a Cubone in the anime chucked its bone and was able to, like, it realistically has a chance of hitting. You could always write it like Pidgeotto is able to fly out of the way and it's too high for the bone to actually reach or something. But if Pidgeotto is on the ground and Cubone's able to get on top of it, it could use Bone Club on it And it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, haha, I'm immune because I'm a flying type. It's like, no, you're getting hit in the face with a bone. So when you're
Mhm.
writing battles, in some ways you can factor, you could, and also you just go completely off game logic, and this does not matter. But think about it in terms of what are you actually doing in the battle?
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of a and okay, actually this is before we go anything, Phantom Tarek actually has a great question here.
Yeah, yeah.
What is
I was
what
gonna.
yeah, what is the hardest and easiest thing to do your series? I've been talking for a minute, so you go.
Okay, okay. Hardest thing, I'll do the easiest thing. Easiest thing for me is just writing rivalries. I
Mhm,
love writing rivalries. I don't know what writing rivalries. It's what I love to do. There's a sports card that's like based on it, but like writing rivalries, I love doing that. I love writing the rivals, whether it's an Ash rival or another character's rival. I love writing rivalries. Uh,
mhm,
the hardest thing, and this is something that I've never really had to do, but if I ever have to do it, I know it's going to be very hard for me. Well, actually, two things is A, world building, and B, writing romance. Writing
mhm,
romance, A, because it just never comes up in a Pokemon series,
mhm,
and B, world building, which is actually, I'm going to give a compliment to Zach. I think Zach does probably world building the best
mhm.
out of many of the writers I've seen, along with you, Dolly. But like world
Oh,
building is hard for me because I'm so like focused in on the battles that world building kind of comes secondary, and the
mhm,
way I world build is different from like the way like when everyone else world build, it's like the history of the region. Whenever I world build is like, so is Sinnoh a big market or is it a small market?
mhm. Right, 100%.
And that's like, and that's the difference. With you go.
Um, but for me, easiest factor to write is the Pokemon. I am locked in when it comes to writing the Pokemon personalities, their dynamics, characters in general are very easy for me because I put a lot of thought. And it comes very naturally for me as I've like grown as a writer over time. To be able to
Yes.
write dynamics and how people work. Like one example I always give for character dynamics in my own personal series is when Ash enters Erica's gym. You know, if Ash enters alone, his immediate reaction is to yell, "This place smells like shit," and he's getting kicked out because he's an idiot.
Mhm.
With Giselle there, though, she's able to keep a handle on Ash because Ash knows, like, Giselle, and he knows how she reacts to him. And it's just like, if I say this place smells like shit, she's going to get pissy, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to keep my mouth
Mhm.
shut after she just gave me that look. And that's an example of a
Mhm.
character dynamic right there, you know? Um,
Mhm.
the hardest part for me, oh, what was it? I had it on the tip of my tongue. Um, I think the hardest part of my series is Ash has to suck. And that is
Okay.
a like for me, I'm focused like I don't have a I'm starting with Ash in Kanto. And so I have
Mhm.
to keep in mind that he has to learn, grow, and develop in ways that every other normal trainer in the world does this in a single region. I have to spread that out
Mhm.
over a consecutive number of regions where I can't have Ash be like, oh, I know how to win this battle like this. It's like usually maybe he'll have a brilliant idea every once in a while, but even the cool things his Pokemon do, like one of the quote unquote coolest moves he's done is wrapping the opponent up with string shot or vines and slamming them in the
Mhm.
ground. Weedle did that first. Ash didn't come up with that. Weedle did that. So it's one of
Mhm.
those things where like everything cool Ash has to do is Pokemon. I mean, it's fine for them to do it because they can be intelligent and stuff. But like
Mhm.
Ash has to be an idiot. He doesn't. He has to not know how to train because it is a factor in his arc that I am writing and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's like in the Lieutenant Surge fight, it's like Ash came up with a specific strategy based on the situation he was in after having prior knowledge of how Surge fought. And he was able to do that because anyone could do that who can rub two brain cells together and stuff. That doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily make him smart, you know? But also afterwards, he didn't train at all. He wasn't like, man, Surge was a hard battle. I really got to get on, I really got to get on this shit. I should start training. He's just like, I was able to beat him in the end, so who cares? With Sabrina, like
Mhm.
Ash lost brutally in that battle, but he doesn't look at it and go, I wasn't strong enough or Ninetales wasn't strong enough. It was very clear to him and everybody, and Sabrina told him straight up, your relationship with Ninetales is the reason you lost. They don't coordinate well. Ninetales goes off her survival instincts and doesn't listen to Ash's commands. She second guesses everything he says because she's never had a trainer before. Spoiler
Mhm.
alert. So for me it is I have to make Ash dumb. It's a problem that will get a lot easier over time, but
Mhm.
for like a more, I guess, editing wise or writing wise problem is that I do not think about what I have to edit when I write my script. I write my script like a story, and then I record it, and then I go into the editing process, and I go, Pass Dolly, go fuck yourself. Why'd you write this? This is gonna be
No,
so hard to
same.
create. Mhm.
Same. To follow
Um,
up, how do you think the because he
yeah, no,
like
go
to
because
follow up, how
we
do you think?
no, continue.
No, because Infamous asked a question, but if you're
Yeah.
not done, I'll.
No, no, no. I was actually gonna say this is a Q&A partially too, so we should be answering questions.
Yeah. To follow up on that, how do you think Ash? What do you think the best way to maneuver Ash is when it's something to the scale of Alola and Journeys, while also making him feel balanced? Have the tone set, but I need it to feel real. For that, you kind of need to just like humanize your Ash, because
Hmm.
for us, it's so easy to make Ash just like character in a
Hmm.
way of like he's just like I'm a happy-go-lucky guy and I love life and I love doing good deeds. You kind of have to humanize him, and there's nothing bad with that characterization, mind you. But you have to do something that what does he like to do on his spare time? What makes him tick? That's what you kind of have to figure out.
Hmm.
So like for me, it's like for my Ash, it's like what Ash likes to do on his spare time. I have the idea that Ash probably likes playing basketball in his spare time, more
Hmm.
or less because I like playing basketball in my spare time, and that's
Hmm.
just something I took for me. I probably like playing basketball at his spare time. He probably does keep DS Nintendo Switch. Probably likes to play like he's probably a very casual. Ash is probably the most casual gamer to ever exist. Where
Hmm.
it's like as much as we would want Ash to be like, oh, he'd be all the things I'm into. He would be a very casual gamer. So he'd be like, oh man, I gotta play that in Sonic the Hedgehog game. Ash, name 5 Sonic characters.
Hmm.
Sonic, Black Sonic, like because he's traveling all the time. He's not like a fandom guy. I don't think he would be. But
Hmm.
like that's just an example of what I mean, where it's like that's some interest that he have. But what makes Ash tick is whenever someone kind of talks about his battle history, like I said this earlier, like not necessarily his character, because Iris can call Ash a kid, and that will annoy him, but more in the way of like how a little sister would annoy you. But
Yeah.
if someone says, Ash, you're a kind of a draft bust, you didn't win a league until you went to the smallest market possible, and that's the only time you've ever won. That's what gets him to tick, because he's like, you weren't there. I busted my ass off at you.
Hmm.
So it's like that's how you kind of keep in tone. And then also if you're talking about in terms of like a plot evil team kind of way, the way I just do it is have Ash not really be like the way I write my Ash. He's not really into the whole stopping the whole evil team. It totally like directly happens to him. Where
Hmm.
this like my Ash is kind of a little bit of a dick. He's one of those people where it's like, dang, an explosion just happened over there. And it's probably nothing.
Yeah.
I should probably go check it out anyways.
I'm gonna go over my own instance of this question, but similarly to your Ash, my Ash is also very like because he is Kanto is new and he's just a 10-year-old dumbass. Like when the in the Beedrill goodbye episode, when all the Beedrills swarmed the town and did all that, the only reason Ash went to help is because Brock wanted to, and he could see that, and he feels like he owes Brock, and Beedrill wanted to. Ash didn't want to. He wanted to get the fuck off that island. He doesn't like that island. Like he's not heroic in the slightest. Like if there's something directly in front of him that like it's like a crime is happening or something bad is happening, in his mind he goes, "Fuck! All right, I gotta deal with this." But he does not seek
No, yeah,
out
same.
problems. But in another factor of like how do you write a scale in terms of like sort of a battler, you know, um, because they can be hard to you know, like if so. It's kind of a lot easier if it's a Lola instead of Journeys, because Journeys is very hard because he's the world champion, so he's the strongest. In some ways, you can balance it with the new Pokemon he gets. If he has new Pokemon, they're obviously weaker. It's actually a factor I touch on with Green, where Green is a prodigy in my series. She is a natural prodigy. However, she had to extensively train her Pokemon to reach her level. Like, just because she's a prodigy doesn't mean the Pokemon are prodigies. Like, when Ash goes in Hoenn to go fight Roxanne, it like say Hoenn was like the 6th region he's been to. It doesn't matter how much battle experience he has. His Trico with no grass moves is gonna struggle hard against Nosepass. So it's like
Mhm.
when you're writing, like you can balance Ash as a trainer, you can make him smart, but his comeuppance and where he needs to learn more is about learning about the new Pokemon he has and learning how they fight and how he can adapt to that in some ways, depending on if you write Ash as a more adaptable fighter or if like he catches Pokemon that fit more of his battle style so he could impart more on him. Like one factor you could even do is bringing back old Pokemon to help train up the new ones in a weird way as a continuity thing where you're just like, like, oh man, I have this Watchog. Ash has a Pat Rat and stuff, and it fights very similar to I'm just naming shit. Glalie, what if I bring Glalie over to give, Pat Rat some tips, and all that. Um and so you can kind of like balance Ash in that way where his new Pokemon will restrict him a lot in that sense and stuff. It doesn't mean he's dumb. But like it's sort of like the idea of like you ever talk so fast that or like you ever like you're talking
Mhm.
and then suddenly you slur your words and mess up your sentence and stuff. It's like, but in your head, you know completely what you're trying to say. Your brain, your
Yep.
mouth couldn't keep up with your brain. And so it's like
Mhm.
Ash's Pokemon can't keep up with him. So it's sort of like
Mhm.
that's one way to limit him. When it comes to Ash as a trainer, as like a traveler, it's like you don't need to make him jaded where it's like I've seen it all, I've known it all. Because Ash is a very excitable person, depending on how you write him, of like, wow, I love seeing new and interesting things and stuff. And you can kind of
Mhm.
think about in the situations of like Ash is seeing a new Pokemon in a new region for the first time. How is he going to react to that and stuff? Is it so similar to a previous Pokemon that's used to scare the shit? Like, let's say Ash had trauma with Drapion. Trauma feels like such a heavy word for it, but let's say he's like, I know Drapion are very dangerous Pokemon, and he encounters like this giant scorpion Pokemon in this hypothetical new region. He's not gonna go up to it and be like, "Wow, look at this cool new Pokemon." He's gonna be like, "Ooh, that thing looks deadly." Like I'm gonna be a little cautious about this. Or if it's like a cute little puppy Pokemon, he's gonna be like, "Wow, look at this," and then it might bite his hand, but he might be like, "Ah, look at this thing." It's like
Mhm.
I think a good way, actually, if you're trying to write an experienced Ash, a character to look at is surprisingly Freed. Um,
Yes.
I think Freed is a very well written, older companion kind of character that you can draw upon because he takes center stage a lot
Yep.
in Horizons when it comes to battling and experience, and that actually kind of plays into a factor of like, you know, we you know, where if like are you having new kids travel with Ash? Are they experienced trainers? What are their goals? And those can kind of help shape you in the direction of how Ash interacts with them and how you can take him in different directions. Like one
Mhm.
factor, in the anime, Ash doesn't give a fuck about contests in Hoenn. He does not care in the
Mhm.
slightest. Like every May contest, he's out training and then he shows up at the end like, "Oh wow, good on, May," and then back to my shit. But in Sinnoh, he's all for the contest. He's like going to everyone at Dawn's. He's like, for most part, I think he's at everyone from the first round to
I
the
think he
end.
got all of them. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. To the point where he competes in his own and stuff. And the way you
Mhm.
could kind of think that is like Ash disregarded contests as this lame thing that doesn't matter. And let's say this isn't how it went in the anime, but let's say he fought May and Blaziken was able to match Sceptile. I was like, huh, maybe that gave him a new appreciation for contests where he's like, she got pretty strong for someone who's only doing these like pageant shows and stuff. Like he's disrespectful about it.
Mhm.
Maybe there's
Mhm.
something I can learn from these. And then he takes that into Sinnoh where he's way more open about contests than he was before. You know, so you
Mhm.
can kind of use previous things that maybe you think Ash disliked or didn't care about and kind of use them to
Mhm.
factor into new things. Um,
Mhm.
and you wrote about this. You wrote this down, Infamous, where you've done a lot. I've done that since it's all original Pokemon. I found a way to actually lock away his old power sources he can utilize for relevance or plot. Yeah, that is also something to keep in mind. If you are writing from a previous Ash, like depending on how dangerous say you have an evil team plot, if it is a very
Mhm.
highly dangerous situation where Ash knows the world's at stake and stuff, and he has the time to do this, obviously, it's not like Kalos League where shit's just gone awry and he doesn't have time for this. He also has a
Yes.
pretty strong team there. But like, if Ash has prep time, why would he not pull Charizard out of his back pocket? Why would he be like, Charizard, Sceptile, like Infernape, off the bench, I need your
Only
guys' help, shit's going down.
the only issue that I only really have with that is more or less that like it's kind of weird that Ash would just ran like in like this is usually most people avoid this, but it's like for me personally, I never do that because usually it's in the series in itself, so it'd be weird if like in Sword and Shield Ash used like Charizard Sceptile to fight Eternatus when
Mm.
like I spent the whole league with the Galar team only for them to not be used here.
Yeah, that is
That's just
no,
more of me.
it is a very weird thing to just suddenly pull. It is one of those things where it's like, in some ways, you can kind of keep in mind of how you want to utilize previous Pokemon. Like, so fun fact, people like love Sinnoh for bringing back Ash's old Pokemon for the league. But what people forget is before Hoenn, Ash did that. Obviously, he only had Kanto
Mhm.
roster and Johto roster and all the Johto Pokemon sucked. So why would he not use the Kanto team and Johto for the league? But
He had a
like,
Cyndaquil and a Totodile entering the league. Oh my god,
fuck,
bro.
yeah, and stuff, and they didn't do shit.
They're so bad.
They're so bad. The golden rule on the Dolly streams, guys. Every part of Johto is bad except for the league. It's all bad.
I actually
And
like the
stuff.
league.
The
Yeah,
league, the league,
Samurai.
the
biggest Johto hater. I actually like the league.
the league is probably one of the more like I think it is in top 3 contention for like the best league, you know.
Whoa, 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 whoa! I didn't say all that.
I said all
Whoa,
this is
whoa,
my stream, bitch.
whoa! It's in the top five for me. Not top three, but top five.
um yeah, but
It's just like what 7 leagues? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, you can think about Ash a lot when in terms of traveling of like how his companions interact with him, what their goals are, and that can kind of help shape Ash. You can kind of also think
Oh,
about
for
what's his
sure.
like why is he in this new region? Like, is he just interested in traveling? So he's like let's say Ash goes to this new hypothetical fake region. Is a he's going in there and he like let's say he's like I want to explore this new land. Make him curious about everything. The culture, the
Yeah.
people, the Pokemon. Make him just excited to like discover new things and it is his favorite thing in the world. If he's going there to challenge himself because he hears there's a really tough league there, make that the factor. Make he's like, all right, I gotta train. I gotta like be all right. I'm gonna look at the
But
variables around me and kind of figure out what to do to be the best.
for my Paldea series, for my Paldea series, Ash wasn't really going there because it was like he was going there like the actual in canon reason for my Ash going there was to just train his Pokemon in secret so no one knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because one unique advantage that Ash has that no one else really, that not a lot of people have, I should say no one else because other people travel to different regions, is that he has such a big repertoire of Pokemon that he could pull from. So if he can train them all to an adequate level, he definitely has something that he could pull someone for every battle. But
Mm-hmm.
also, he just went there to train. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't really care about like doing whatever in the region. Like if it was up to him, he would just get a Terror Orb as quickly as possible and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is Gita was like, "Hey, you don't have nowhere to stay, so like, why don't you be a teacher? We'll give you a free Terror Orb." And Ash is like, in universe, Ash would be like,
Mm-hmm.
fine." He'd be
Yeah.
like, fine." Like,
Yeah. This kind of
so
also
it's like
speak.
that's one,
No, continue.
and that's just like one way to look at it. Where it comes to like, you don't have to make Ash the same way in every region of like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's excited to figure out this new place. Like for Unova, I think that could work because like Unova in the Pokemon region is their equivalent to the United States, and he's
Mm-hmm.
never been there. The United States and Japan are so different that
Mm-hmm.
it would make sense for him to be like that. But let's say Ash is going to Hoenn, he doesn't really need to be like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
yes, Hoenn and Kanto are different, but
Mm-hmm.
like he's still relatively in the same kind of area.
Yeah. Um, it's a and this can lead into another point when you're writing these stories. Tone. What is the overall story of your region? It does not have to be
Yes.
the evil team is taking over and stuff, and they're gonna try and use the legendary Pokemon. You don't have to even write that, by the way. If you're in Hoenn, you don't have to do Team Aqua Magma conflict and Kyogre and Rayquaza. You don't have to do any of that and stuff. Just
It'd
because it
be
happened in the
weird,
games and
but
the
yeah,
anime,
you can do.
but like you just do Ash traveling throughout a region. It's fine. You have to set up some sort of conflict for him in some ways, whether it be a new rival on like a Paul level, or like, something for him, but you have to do evil team stuff. But like
Mm.
when it comes to, in my mind, when it comes to Ash fighting evil teams, especially for my Ash, him encountering like Team Plasma who have an ideology that directly contradicts everything that he stands for as a trainer is very he would attack that very differently than someone like Team Aqua and Magma who are just like we want to use the legendaries in great land or sea or something, where he's like doesn't have a personal investment in that. And like something where it's like you can have a darker tone to your series and you kind of gotta stick by that in some ways. It doesn't mean you can have some levity, but like keep in mind with what you're writing, like the original anime is very goofy and it is very for kids and is very out of the hat. Like here's a haunter that turns into a weasel and scares Ekans, like, or it can be like a very, I guess, almost serious region. I don't want to say Sinnoh is serious, but like Ash really questions himself about who he is as a trainer, what he does, and like how he battles versus Paul, who has an ideology that directly conflicts with his. You know, um,
I think
so
that's partially why they didn't do Team Plasma right away for
mhm,
BW, or at
mhm,
least like they didn't do it right away. They were gonna do it in like the Bird Battle, which is like not the beginning of BW, but like it's still in the first season.
mhm.
It's because we just got off of Paul, who literally challenged Ash's ideology. So it's like another team that challenges Ash's ideology. Like it's not the same thing, but like you know,
Yeah. No, 100%. Infamous was talking about how for the plot,
Yeah.
I think in his series, basically, the new region's champion is being questioned for, the new region's champion questions Ash for relying too heavily on gimmicks, especially compared to Leon. And that comes into another factor. This doesn't really matter until you get to regions with this, but what do the
Mhm.
gimmicks mean of the region? Now, for example, um, I would rarely, if ever, give anyone who's not from Alola, like you wouldn't see like Cynthia bust out a Z move, for instance, and that's because I think Z moves are very culturally important to Alola and the people, and so you wouldn't just see
Ollie,
them, randomly about with high level trainers or something in
it's
comparison to like a
it's ironic that
Mega Evolution.
no, I'm sorry. It's just very ironic that you use Zemus because she's one of the only few trainers that we know have been to Alola because
True.
of the battle tree. That's just funny. I'm like,
Yeah.
you use Cynthia out of all people. But no,
Exactly.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
I also agree. Where it's like, what do the gimmicks mean to each region? Like, Mega Evolution in my head has come very commercialized, which is why it's able to kind of like Mega Stones are kind of being able to be sold, and it's like
Mm,
it's kind of a worldwide gimmick. While Z moves are something more culturally tied to the region in itself.
mm,
Dynamax is centered in Galar, so that's a whole other thing.
yeah.
And Terra Crystals, they're a weird thing because Gen 9 is so young. We don't really know how to tackle it
Yeah.
because it's
Exactly.
never really been like tackled on a wild scale. And
Mm,
we have to see if it's even going to return in another region or to like kind of jump on it. But
mm,
like but like to for Infamous, when you said like Ash over relies on gimmicks, especially to Leon, that's another thing where it's like what's the main lesson that like Dolly said this earlier? What's the main lesson that you're actually taking from every region? Like for Sword and Shield, and I think like anyone who has seen my Sword and Shield series, let me know if this comes across. But the whole point of Sword and Shield and Ash's relationship with Leon is Ash learning what it means to be a champion
mm,
outside of just being strong. Like I have a whole scene where I knew I was doing the scene from the jump, where there's like the festival and they need the ball guy, right? Like the ball guy
mm,
you see in Sword and Shield. And everyone's like, the guy who we need to usually do it is like running late and we need the ball guy. Leon steps up to do it because that's what a champion does. He takes care
mm,
of the region. Like he could easily just host a tournament, but like a festival is something that everyone gets to participate in instead of just like having instead of just having a tournament where like okay only like 64 people can participate out of like this town and
mm,
who even knows how many like trainers are in the town in like question. So it's
mm,
like that's another way to look at it for Ash is like what will this region teach Ash like because
mm.
every he takes something from every region, even Unova, even like he didn't really take anything from Journeys, but that's because Journeys took place in like every region, so he couldn't really take anything from it. But like you get my point,
Mm.
where it's like, and Scarlet and Violet's lesson is spoilers, so I can't tell you what that lesson is, but you get my point.
Yeah, and it's also kind
You
of
get my
like,
point.
and it comes down to writing decisions of like, how do you view gimmicks? Because on one hand, it's like we use the
Yes.
word gimmick of like, it's just a fandom term of like, oh yeah, the gimmick that he learned here. It's like, do you view them as someone's using a cheat code, like it's like someone rare candied their Pokemon and stuff, and it's like, oh, you can over rely on that stuff to the point of detriment, or do you look at it as Ash is so skilled he was able to master these quote unquote gimmicks, that it takes a
Mhm.
lot of time, effort, and it just it
Well,
puts him above other trainers because he's able to master all these things.
I can tell you the way I look at each gimmick on a case by case basis. Like for Mega Evolution, Ash is a novice at it, pretty much.
Yeah.
He like his Pokemon can use it, and they're not gonna do like the thing that Karina's Lucario did, where
Hmm.
it like where it crashed out and it was going crazy. But
Hmm.
at the same, but like for Z moves, he's mastered that. That's the one gimmick I think Ash mastered. He's mastered Z moves.
Hmm.
For Dynamax, he doesn't really like using it because unless he's going for pure power, he doesn't really need it because it's like super like Dragon Ball reference. It's like Super Saiyan Grade 3, where it's like oh, if you need pure power, it's great. But Ash relies on speed. So it's like probably not the best for
Hmm.
him. And then for Terra, he just kind of likes it. Like he's proficient at it. I would not
Hmm.
say he's a master, but I think you can't really master Terra because it's
Hmm.
more of one of those things that's like it's really just a coin flip of oh you're attacking my Feraligatr because you think it's a water type right now. I made it into an electric type. You don't really need
Hmm.
to master anything when it comes to that unless
Right. It's
like
turning an
unless
on
you do
switch.
something in the narrative that changes for alligator, nothing really like changes.
Right. Exactly. Um. The I think we should. We've been going for 2 hours here, so I think we'll wrap this up with some final thing of like some final advice
We
here
can
because
talk about pacing.
yeah, exactly. We'll wrap this up with some pacing talk. think about when you're constructing
Well,
these episodes. What's on the dock?
what's on the list of things that we need to talk about so we can just kind of lightning round it then?
I would say the last two things I got in my doc here are uh don't try and be someone else and pacing, probably.
Okay. So, by the way, guys, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask all these questions before
Mhm.
we end the stream. Ask
Yeah.
all the questions right now.
We it's funny.
but
We've been going 2 hours. I don't even feel like we've covered everything. We could definitely do this again.
we could definitely do a part two. I would for sure be down.
Oh,
But
100%.
for the don't be someone else, finding your own writing style is one of the most important things. And I think we talked about it a bit earlier, but like using other sources, like I use sports, Dolly
Mhm,
uses media that he's seen before.
mhm,
You can just make a Pokemon story, just take the Naruto writing structure, put that
mhm,
into Pokemon. Sorry if I'm
mhm.
talking fast because Dolly said we gotta like Dolly said
Yeah,
we're gonna wrap it up. So I want to make sure we cover everything that we originally wanted to cover.
yeah.
But like that's just an example where it's like for my Ash, like again, I told you I base it off of Beyblade verse. But my writing style is very distinctly mine because
Mm,
of the visualization, the animation, what I base Ash on. It all comes together to make something of my own. In the
mhm,
same way that Dolly has his visual style, has his writing style, has his world building, has the way he like just treats the characters and
mhm,
makes his own unique writing style. In the same way Zach has it, Zano has it, so on and so forth.
mhm,
And someone we've like haven't talked about, even though we want to talk about him, Elite MJ. I'm sure everyone has seen his stuff at least once or twice. He
mhm.
has his own unique writing style that works for him, but having your own unique writing style is super important.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's like, and it's something you will discover as you write more. Like, and by the way, Infamous, that's a great way of going about that and stuff from a journey's Ash and stuff. Like rediscovering something is a great plot line for that because it gives Ash something to do and kind of like, allows you to touch on previous factors that he's already learned, but like kind of like exploring them to deeper levels. But yeah, like figure out what you're good at. Also, figure out what you like to do. I love writing characters. I love trying to expand world building. I love world building the gym leaders as not just weird guys who run a gym, but like sheriff slash mayors of the town. The league is more of a governmental body. When a problem arises, you know, they step in. They're not going to be like, well, Team Rocket's doing their thing, so we're just going to leave that for some random 10-year-old to stumble across. They're like, oh, we found a Team Rocket. We're actively searching for Team Rocket bases, and we will send an Elite Four level trainer to go crush them because they're all goons. Like that's just stuff I love. You might like battling more. You might like just writing, the adventure itself more. You might be more focused on a plot line of an evil team, and that could be what you love to do. You know, it's something you won't discover until you start writing. And as
no,
stu
like for
continue.
no, continue.
No, that's it.
No, I was gonna say I was gonna say like for me, I love treating the world like it is I love treating the battling world of Pokemon like it is a sport because that's what
Mhm,
it is in universe, but it rarely gets treated like that.
mhm,
Like I think the only game where like the only two games is like Sword and Shield and Pokken Tournament.
mhm,
Like if one of the things you have to like that shows how this is a sport is Pokken Tournament. I love
mhm,
Pokken Tournament by the way, guys. It's just like
mhm,
it got no support, but
mhm,
like you get what I mean. Where it's like Pokken, like I love treating it like a sport. I love making kind of sports graphics,
mhm.
explaining things. Like I'll share Dolly these two things for him
Yeah,
to show on stream.
100%. By the way, we are not
Ignore
like
the
in a
third
hard.
one because that also
We're not.
ignore the third. I'll just delete them, the ones that you have to ignore. But
Mhm,
like that's one thing I love to do. It's a great way to show like world building in a non like I'm telling you way.
mhm,
Like I don't have to tell you, oh, they have like battle magazines that multiple trainers get featured in. Like, yes, Ash has been featured on some battle magazines before. We just haven't seen it,
mhm,
at least in my universe. And like that's just kind of how the world works for me. And
mhm,
it's something that I find to be fun.
mhm,
And find out what you like to write because it'll come across like do you like to write how Pokemon biology like do you want to go more into that because I know people were talking about that earlier in the chat where it's like
mhm,
people love using Froakie Troubles. Do you want to have a whole series just based on like hyper specifying the Pokemon's biology? That's something
mhm,
interesting to do. Flipping what's his face, like for Infamous you shared earlier, like Fakimar regions, you have to kind of make up a whole new culture for a whole new region that we never seen before. Are
mhm,
you like fascinating with the region's culture and world building? That could also be something you love and that can come across in your writing. But like
mhm.
when we say don't copy someone else, it's not bad to
Yeah.
base your writing off someone else when you start. Like
Mhm.
it's not bad to like look at Zach or look at Dolly, look at me, look at Zano, look at Infamous, look at Elite MJ, look at all these other guys that are writing stuff like Ronan Charizard and base your writing off of that when you're
Mhm.
starting because everyone has to start from somewhere. And
Right.
it's like, but over time, it's great when you can find your own style and you can look back and you can say, that's mine. Like that's mine. Like you can definitely see the influence, but that's mine.
Yeah, 100%, and all this stuff that we're talking about will develop with time. And the most important thing to do is to start creating. Don't wait till like you hit a milestone. I was going to make my series when I hit 10K, and now it is the reason my channel hit 5K, Like
Could
just
you
start.
imagine if you did that?
Oh my god, dude. I don't even know what I would do for content right now if I wasn't creating this series.
It's like a random side. It's like I guess I'll make the Ash teams redone ranked. Which one do I like the most?
Yeah,
Guys,
exactly.
please let's just get to 10K so I can write all this so I can make all this stuff.
100%, like just start making stuff and you'll get there. The most important thing beyond just making stuff, just constantly striving to improve. Like don't
Yeah,
just be like
exactly. And
don't just settle on your laurels. Don't be like, "Huh, I didn't do a lot of sound. I didn't do sound effects in that episode. What if I started trying to add sound effects and balancing and mixing audio and all that?"
I don't do sound effects, but that's because I'm lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alex, you are kind of late because we're like we're trying to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. And then I think we can jump to the last topic, which is what I feel is something that never goes talked about. And to be fair, I don't know how you talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to pace your series is important, but
Mm-hmm.
no one ever talks about it.
Yeah, 100%. Like I used to go by gym basis, and then I got to the point in Lavender Town after that where I was like, it feels weird to skip all the way to a Koga gym battle after this one. I need to pace myself. I need to have the Lavender Town episode and the Catching Jigglypuff episode, and I need to have the freaking you know, the Golduck episode. Like you gotta like what you don't want to do is you don't want to rush through your region, but you also don't want to pull an anime and have Sinnoh have 500 episodes
Yeah.
between two badges.
And it's like, here's the thing. It's not filler, but like, here's the thing. You are going to have filler, but not filler in the way that I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's you can have like the one-off anime filler episodes where it's just like we encounter random stuff of the day. But here's the thing. One of the reasons Johto sucks so hard is that every episode is literally just encounter new Pokemon, thing happens, Team Rocket captures them, and then we save them, and that's the episode. They're
Yes.
very boring. You know, it's like even in the episodes where like not a lot of action happens, I try and include some character either moments or development. And it
Yes.
doesn't have to be a big thing where like it's like these two are in conflict and then they resolve it. Like Brock's entire episode was literally he didn't change or anything. You just learned more about how he views breeding, him understanding a Pokemon better, hatching Togepi. Like stuff happened, but it wasn't like he went on this grand arc of like this is the problem of the day and then I experienced it. And
Mhm.
I fixed it.
Happy birthday to Fandom's grandma because
Yeah.
it's his grandma's birthday. He put in chat. Happy birthday, Fandom's grandma.
Happy birthday.
but yeah, like with pacing, it's super important because like not only for the plot but also for like Pokemon development. Like I can
Mm,
look at like because my Charcadet like basically evolved into Ceruledge. Like had Charcadet had a mid evolution, it probably would have evolved into the mid evolution. But
mm,
like here's the thing when it comes to like Pokemon evolution and how you pace it, it's more or less how is this Pokemon going to be a major Pokemon or like and I know we just talked about how like aces are bad or like aces are one thing or another, but like is this Pokemon going to be a major long development kind of Pokemon or is it going to
mm.
be like a very Pokemon that's kind of like a Pokemon that's kind of going to fall off near the end? Like
Right.
example of this Staraptor.
Mm.
Staraptor kind of fell off near the end of Sinnoh because he evolved. Because like Ash has a Staravia by the first gym, and no one really talks about it
Yeah.
and it's like that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like it had a slow fall off near the end of DP as a result. But on the flip side, what was supposed to happen is that Ash's Torterra, which took a minute to evolve, was gonna get better, but it didn't
Mm,
because DP doesn't know how to handle Torterra. But
mm.
that's just an example of what would have happened had DP didn't like had DP wrote the thing properly. But
Yeah, exactly.
uh like for an example, this is something like again, this is not something that everyone needs to follow. This is something that I just follow. Pseudo should never evolve within the same season,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Like if Ash gets a Gibble in season one, then gets a Gabite in season two, then the Gabite should not be a Garchomp unless something plot related happens or the whole season is based around Gabite until season three where he gets to Garchomp. Because the whole point of Pseudo in my head is that they're a long form kind of like development where it's
Right.
like you get to see them suck in the beginning, and then by the end you're like, wow, I feel rewarded for watching him grow.
Exactly. You know, pace yourself, pace your Pokemon. Feel like kind of like I had Golduck evolve in the episode he did because it felt like a good time. Sometimes, by the way, sometimes it's never even a like, okay, I planned for Golduck to evolve here. I just felt in my bones like, you know what, this would be a good moment for Golduck to evolve. I think this is a solid moment for it, and I did it, and it worked. You know, but like, so not everything. Sometimes you could just feel stuff out. But kind of you can kind of use the game's logic of like where you're at level wise in the game of where it doesn't translate one for one, but sort of like if you're at gym 7 and like you were planning for your Bulbasaur to become a Venusaur and it's still a Bulbasaur, you've paced that very badly. You know?
Basketball edits to ask a question. I don't know if you're asking this to me or Dolly. My episodes just kind of drop whenever. I usually drop them on Saturdays. Season two is
Mhm,
not starting for a minute because I have to kind
mhm,
of write all of it.
mhm.
Like I have to finish all the scripts before I release it. Dolly, do you want to tell them when you're dropping new episodes? Because he's asking and he didn't specify.
Either next week or the week after, depending on how my work
You guys
schedule
get an
is.
episode sometime in the future, eh?
Hey,
where,
um,
where stuff will happen. All right,
exactly.
so before we wrap up the stream, I guess this is like kind of the last call for questions.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll
Like
give it up.
last call for questions before we wrap up the stream, I guess. Because
And
are we nearing the end?
yeah, we're nearing the end here. I got some stuff to do in 718. But the what I will say here is we will definitely do this again. This has been really
Oh,
fun.
for sure, for
You
sure.
know, and we have
And
not
maybe we'll
even
have some other people on.
yeah, exactly. We'll grab Zach and throw him on here. Interrogate him
We'll
about
force him in on
Sword and
here
Shield. Yeah, exactly. We'll hold him against his will in Minecraft. Um
in
the
Minecraft.
yeah. Oh, you got to say it. Otherwise, they'll like, YouTube will come down and be like, "I hear you're kidnapping people," and I'd be like, "Kind of." Um, Shut up,
You
Ion.
guys think Serena will go to Alola?
Kill yourself.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely.
yeah,
Hold on, let him cook.
yeah.
Hold on,
I'll,
hold
I'll
on. I
let
see what you say.
I'll let him cook. I'll drop him in the fire, and then he'll cook.
Hold on, let me see what he's cooking
Yeah.
here.
Keep
But
that bitch's name out my chat.
I'll
Yeah,
definitely cook with
100%
you guys.
infamous. We're always down
Yeah,
to
whenever.
yeah, definitely. This is by the way, this is all me and Abdul do. We just hop in calls every time, and it always leads to some writing conversation.
And I'll like it'll really start out of nowhere. Oh, we
Yeah.
actually have a question. How
Ooh.
do you deal with how do you deal with trying to not go back and rewrite things? Also, I get new ideas. Also, I get new ideas to add something, but it will be like halfway through the story at this point. To answer the question of how you don't want to rewrite things, try to bring some things like try your best to bring some things into the current series that you're writing and see if you can like kind of fix them to your liking. Like I don't know how to explain it, but like an example of this is like I'm trying to think of an actual example of this where it's like if I was to bring back Iris, I think I did bring back Iris, but if I was to bring back Iris and they were to have like a whole conversation about like how Iris called Ash Loken, I would never do it because I don't think that's like in character for either character. But it'd be one of those things where Iris would just have a comment like, Ash, you know what, you've grown up. That's all I would probably do. I would not have Iris actually confront Ash about it because again, I don't think it's in character for Iris to be like, you know, Ash, me calling you a little kid was kind of hurtful and demeaning because that's kind of odd.
Yeah, I think here's on a different spectrum of it. Sometimes you got to suck it up. Sometimes you've come up with a
You
cool
gotta suck it
idea
up.
and you wish you could use it, but you have not set it up properly, and it will only make your series worse. Do you know how many times I wish I like, because I fucked up in my thing and Gisela Sandshrew, I wish I could have kept her Cubone. I love Sandshrew. It's great. I'm glad she has it. But like, I easily did not need to replace that Pokemon, and that was just a thing. I gave her a Vaporeon that I took away very quickly, and I was able to retcon that pretty fast, pretty seamlessly, where it didn't matter. you know? But if you are very well established in your story at one point, you just kind of got to live with the story you have. That doesn't mean also your ideas are bunk. Always write down all your ideas. Keep all your old notes. Like if you have to change something in your plot,
Oh, never delete anything.
yeah, keep that plot point. Never delete anything because you could always reimagine it for something else, or it could inspire something else for a future part of your series.
No,
Um,
yeah, like one idea I had for Sword and Shield, and this is something I never shared.
mhm.
I remember after I did that whole time space arc for PLA, I was like, I could have just had Akari be a father in reverse and have Akari be a temporary traveling companion, and then that leads up to the time space arc, and that could have been interesting. But no, because
Mhm.
I suck at writing, I didn't think of that at the time.
Right.
Also, T. Muhammad asked the question: do you choose the Pokemon and then the personality, or vice versa? I usually go Pokemon first, then
Yeah.
personality,
Yeah. Usually I
more or less because
will.
that's easier.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can, it's easy to like, one thing I'll do is I'll line up the Pokemon next. Like, so for instance, for Ash's 6mon, one of the Pokemon I considered was Kangaskhan. And I didn't end up going with it and stuff. Established a full personality for it and everything. Because I looked at it and I was like, this makes the team look a little too feminine for Ash. You know, I did like, it's not like it's a big deal or anyone call me on
Too
it and
many
stuff.
girls.
Yeah, just too many stinky girls on this list. Ladies. The
Oh,
I'm cringe. But like it's like kind of like it just didn't look right to me and stuff. So I went and established a list of like, you know, like okay, so these are some options I do, and I just kind of inserted them until one of them felt right, and then afterwards I came with a personality. Sometimes you could just be like, it's really just you look at a Pokemon and then you can come up with a story or personality, whether it just be like, let's say you had a Ghastly and it was very mischievous and it's kind of a prankster.
no, it's an inside joke, guys. That's why I just died.
Yeah.
That's why it's an inside joke.
But if you look at a Gengar
No,
and you wanted to make it this prankster, you know, like that's a fine way of going about it. Be like, I want Ash to have a Gengar, and it's going to be this goofy prankster and stuff. That's fine. Then you could, but you could also look at Gengar and be like, what if it's just this very solemn, like creepy ghost Pokemon? Like it's very like, you know, horror movie esque. Like that's another way you can take it. But they both stem from the fact that you chose Gengar. You know, like I mean, here's the thing. And the other way, I knew I wanted to have a Pokemon that Ash was gonna have conflict with. Basically, the plot of Ninetales. I knew I wanted to have that and stuff. And so
mhm.
at first it was Magmar, like in my original series. I wanted to change up from Magmar, and so it came down between like Arcanine and Ninetales. And it didn't matter which Pokemon I chose there. It came down to preference because I already had the personality worked for both. You know, it just came down to which one I preferred. So
Mhm.
in some ways, knowing I wanted to have this very angry, you know, like monstrous Pokemon on Ash's team, I was able to fit a Pokemon that chose that. I wasn't going to choose, like, Flareon for me didn't fit that mold. Rapidash didn't fit that mold, but I could easily write Arcanine. Like, that helped me narrow down my Pokemon pool of who I wanted to choose. So in
Well,
some,
as we know, all
yeah,
horses are assholes. So
all horses are
it might
assholes.
have worked.
Ash would be
Oh
dead.
no,
Rapidash just, like, back kicks him in the head and he dies.
tramples him.
Yeah. Just like, oh, shit.
Oh
Um,
shit!
I didn't know high
Oh shit!
horsepower could be
Rabbit
used.
got head.
Yeah. Rapidash got these hooves.
No, and it's no, but like going on what you said, where it's like sometimes certain personalities that you have for one Pokemon, you can kind of shift to another Pokemon. Where
Mhm.
it's like I based my Cinderace on like Vegito, right? Like
Mhm.
Vegito, like Goku, Vegeta, Vegito, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like I want to make sure it's clear. Like I'm not saying Vegeta, Vegito.
Mhm.
Like but he's a lot more of an asshole than Vegito is. It's more because I
Mhm.
remember seeing this like Fighter Z clip where Vegito used a lot of kicking in his battle style. So I was like, okay,
Mhm.
cool, I'll take that.
Mhm.
And it's like Dolly, I could have just put my link tree in there. You didn't have
Oh,
to do all that.
oh yeah. Well,
No, no,
I'm
sure.
still
No,
doing
thank you.
this. Also, all our socials are in the description.
Oh, okay. But
Um.
what was I saying? Yeah, but like so like yeah, Cinderace could easily have been this very energetic Pokemon that's more Goku like or more
Mhm.
Luffy like, where he's very happy go lucky. But I think it's also very interesting to ride maybe a Pokemon that a lot of people expect, like especially an Ash Ace Pokemon that like a lot of people would be like expect to be happy go lucky
Mhm.
to be like this kind of asshole
Yep.
where he hates where Ash is like, oh brother, this guy, he's gonna cause so
Mhm.
much problems. Like he's an instigator on the team. He causes a lot of fights, but at the
Mhm.
same time, Ash knows that like if I actually need a fire type that has that dong in him,
Mhm.
I'm going with Cinderace over Infernape most of the time because the thing I have with Infernape is like Infernape, he's a great battler when he has Blaze. There's no one else you'd rather have on your
Mhm.
side. The problem is Infernape is kind of nice, and
Mhm.
sometimes Ash doesn't need a Pokemon that's nice. He
Yeah.
needs a Pokemon to be like, kick that baby egg.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
talking about Togepi. He's like, kick that baby egg. And Cinderace
Yeah,
is that type of person. Like, man, get the.
exactly.
Cinderace sees a Togepi, kicks it.
Mhm.
Like, good job. But
Well,
sometimes Ash needs an asshole on the team. And that's to answer your question, Mom. All
yeah.
right, last call for questions before we end the stream.
I'm gonna wrap it up now because I actually got some stuff to
We'll
do.
wrap it up. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
but this has been fun, guys. Check out
So,
Samurai, his channel. He's almost to 2K. If we let's get him to 2K, guys.
yeah, yeah. If
But
we get to 2K, we'll do another one of these streams. That is not confirmed.
exactly.
We'll do another
Yeah,
one of these streams next week. That is
yeah.
not confirmed. We are not doing that.
This has been a blast. In future, we should. I mean, you should. We're definitely going to get some other people on here. We can pick their brain about
Oh,
their
for
series
sure.
and writing and all that. But I'm glad you guys enjoyed this.
Oh,
We were averaging, by the way, like 30 viewers this entire time.
oh snap. Okay, you know,
Yeah.
Kai Sinat, who?
Yeah, Kaisen had who?
Speed who?
Anyways,
30 viewers.
this has been fun, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely do this again, guys.
Oh yeah.
Bye
And
bye.